Fam, what's up? Kyle Henderson. Bama football on YouTube coming to you on Sunday, October 29th. Can I get a roll tide inside the comment box? Appreciate you guys being here. Today we're playing 3 and out. I'm going to move through the calls today. Is Bama a top 4 team? Your college football top 4 right now. And I want to get your take on Bama versus LSU. So those are the 3 questions that we are rolling through today on this fine Sunday. I hope you make time to spend time with your family. Hope you make time to get outside. I know the weather's about to dip, but man, we've been having some beautiful fall weather, and it's almost time for Alabama versus LSU. Kickoff time, 6:45 p.m. I was driving through Tuscaloosa last night, and it was the exact same time, 6:45 p.m. And I was like, this is the time that here next week that Alabama and LSU will be getting going. So look, when I talk about Bama as a top 4 team, Coach Saban doesn't want to hear it, doesn't want to think about it. But when you start to look to the college football playoff rankings, which, by the way, will drop this Tuesday. So the AP poll will come out today, and we can chomp on that a little bit, but that doesn't mean anything. The coaches poll doesn't mean anything. The college football playoff rankings committee decides the ultimate fate of the Alabama Crimson Tide and the rest of the team. So I was thinking about it right now, and I posted my top, 9 on a YouTube short, but let me run through it real quick, and then I want to get your take on Bama being a top 4 team and your college football top 4 right now. So number 1, I have the Georgia Bulldogs, and I get the Georgia Bulldogs are without Brock Bowers, but what they were able to do against Florida, I thought it was impressive, and I thought Carson Beck moved the football around. I thought they ran the football really effectively, and they played a complete 4 quarters of football against the Florida Gators team. I know Dan Mullen even picked Florida to beat Georgia, and Kirby Smart gave him a little something after the game. So you clearly have Georgia at the number 1 spot. And I think when you look to the road to the playoffs for Alabama, you want Georgia to continue to win. And the reason is if an undefeated Georgia team is able to get into the SEC championship and Alabama is to beat that Georgia team, should Alabama make it there as well, I think that is going to send Alabama 1,000,000% into the college football playoffs. Number 2, I have Michigan. Now, Michigan and everything going around, the sign stealing, whatever. I mean, who knows if it's gossip, if it's just kind of hearsay or whatever the case is taking place. But something is happening, but I don't think that is really going to affect their playoff ranking. What is going to affect their playoff ranking is when their season starts here in November, as they take on Penn State and they take on Ohio State. Now, where things could get squirrely is if you have a 1-loss Big Ten team sitting in there. And we'll talk about some of those scenarios in just a second. And I'll get to my phone lines in just a minute. We got a 586 and a 601 waiting, and I will get to you guys in just a second. Number 3, you have Ohio State. Ohio State, watched them last night against Wisconsin. They didn't have the overall offensive production, but this team continues to win. They are undefeated, and they will play Michigan. Now, it's going to be interesting to see when you look to scenarios if Ohio State is able to get in, let's say if they have 1 loss. What do you think? Do they have enough quality wins? I would probably say so. They have a couple early season victories that stand out. Florida State, I've been harping on them. I watched them yesterday against Wake Forest, and I know it's Wake Forest, but look, Jordan Travis can move the football. Those wide receivers are really good, and I think kind of going into this college football playoff ranking, regardless of what their schedule is and regardless that they played Boston College and Clemson down to the wire, it's a good football team, and they continue to win. They have the wide receivers. They were impressive. I mean, Jordan Travis can move the football around. I like him as a quarterback, and they have games remaining against Miami, Florida, and then, of course, the ACC championship. So, Florida State is certainly going to be a wild card or control their own destiny if they simply continue to win. Number 5, I have Washington. Did you guys watch Washington? Michael Penix is a very good quarterback as well. I think he moves the football effectively, and I watched them beat Stanford. That game was, 42-33 or something like that. Stanford had opportunities in that game, wasn't able to close the deal. Washington wins on the road in Palo Alto. Number 6, I guess you have Oregon. And by the way, did you know that Bo Nix has started in over 55 games or something like that? It's the most ever, I think, for a quarterback. And look, that win was impressive for Oregon to be able to go to Washington, on the road to Utah and be able to beat the Utes on the road. And they took care of the Utes. Now, they have 1 loss, which is to Washington. So we are watching the Pac-12. And then Texas, behind a backup quarterback, Malik Murphy, they were able to beat BYU. And number 8, I have Bama. So I have Bama and Texas ahead of Oklahoma because my rationale right now is you can't lose late. The college football rankings, I think, are clearly overall, but they're also right now. What are you doing for me right now? That's why playing in these critical games right now, you have to win. You cannot lose late. Like Penn State lost late to Ohio State. I guess it's not that bad of a loss, but it still is late. Oregon probably lost to Washington right before kind of the late term came in. And I think when you look to the college football playoff scenarios, you have Big Ten, Michigan. They're in the East, and so is Ohio State. So they're not going to play each other in the Big Ten championship game. Michigan still has Penn State and Ohio State left. Ohio State still has Michigan. ACC, you have Florida State unbeaten. As I mentioned, Miami, Florida in the ACC championship. SEC, Georgia has Ole Miss and Tennessee on the road. That's going to be interesting to see what happens. And they have Missouri. This is kind of the beginning of Georgia's schedule. But as I said in the opener, you have to have Georgia, in my opinion, win out, get to the SEC championship for Alabama to beat them. That's going to bolster Alabama's resume. Now, of course, if a one-loss Georgia gets in, and let's say they lose to Tennessee or something like that, and Alabama's able to win out, I still think Alabama gets in the playoffs. Alabama, as you know, has LSU, Kentucky, Auburn, and if they're able to take care of LSU, they get into the SEC championship game where they would play Georgia. That would be a great matchup. And I think for Alabama, that is their road to make the playoffs. And I love it because if you're able to play Georgia and let's say even Brock Bowers comes back or whatever it is, doesn't matter. Georgia's undefeated. That's going to garner the respect that Alabama needs again, right? There was teams that felt Alabama was vulnerable and that they could take advantage of Alabama following that one loss. But, Alabama, just like Jarvis is saying, all the goals are still in front of us. And I think that he's right. Alabama, all they have to do is continue to win. The Pac-12 teams, you have Washington. Now, Washington has Utah, USC, and Washington State still ahead of them. And then Oregon still has Oregon State. So a lot can happen, but the college football rankings do drop here on October 31st. I appreciate you guys being here with me on this fine Sunday morning. I'm coming to you all this week again inside that morning window at 9 a.m. as we prepare you for Alabama and LSU. With that said, let's get to the phone lines. We've got a 586. Let's take it right now. Hey, good morning. Good morning. Good morning. You're on the line with Kyle Henderson. Who am I on the line with and where are you calling in from?
Good morning, Kyle. It's Marcel from Detroit.
What's up, Marcel? I appreciate you calling in from Detroit, man. Good chat a couple days ago, man. When we look to this 3-and-out, is Bama a top 4 team as of October 29th? What you got?
I would say not yet. My top 5, top 4 would be Georgia. I think Michigan. I don't think Ohio State. Not yet. I think they're very beatable. Offense isn't so consistent. And I would say that 4th team, let's see. It's hard. I can't give a 4th team right now.
What about your overall? You kind of dove into it a little bit, but what is your college football top 4? And it doesn't have to be fancy, doesn't have to include Alabama, but based off the criteria where we stand today, what does your college football top 4 look like right now?
I'll say Georgia number 1.
Yep.
I'll say Michigan number 2.
Mm-hmm.
Just off schedule.
Yeah,
I know we talked about Florida State.
Mm-hmm.
I know we talked about Florida State. I know they're not the best team, but right now they look really, really good.
Yep.
I'll say them 3. And that 4th spot, like I said, I'm having a hard time with that 4th spot. It's just hard for me to pick right now.
Yeah,
but if I had to say, I'll say Ohio State.
Yeah, I would probably say Ohio State as well. And I think, you look at the win over Notre Dame. You look at the win over Penn State. I mean, those are quality W's, right? And I think that Ohio State, and on top of that, is they are undefeated. And they will have their say against Michigan And I do like your top four. I mean, Michigan clearly, who's going to jump Georgia, and then Michigan right now. And the thing that Michigan has is they have style points, right? We've talked about their schedule. We don't like their schedule. We don't think that their schedule is strong, but they do have style points, and they are winning. But again, their schedule does not start until November. Like their schedule literally starts this next here in these next couple days.
May I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Something, not to cut you off, but what is your take on Washington? Because I'm interested to see.
Yeah, I think when you look at Washington, number one, who doesn't like their quarterback? I mean, their quarterback is really talented, and I think it was a good display of quarterbacks yesterday for me to kind of watch the quarterback for Florida State and Penix as well from Washington. And I think the thing about those quarterbacks is they have very good accuracy and they have the wide receivers to do it. And I think their offensive coordinators put them in good positions to let them be playmakers. I think Washington is a good team, and the staple win for them is clearly Oregon, which is a good team. We know that. But the thing about Washington is, look, they have a tough schedule coming up. I mean, they have a really tough November as well. They have Utah, they have USC, and they have Washington State, and they have the Pac-12 championship should they be able to win out. So those are tough games. I mean, Stanford played them really close last night, and I know that game was on the road in Palo Alto. Not the most challenging place to win, but I mean, road games are tough. I do like the quarterback, and I do like the, I don't know if overall their schedule of strength screams that much in terms of, the SEC type volume, but the big win against Oregon said a lot. I know the game was at home, and I know it was tight, 36-33, but look, they won straight up, and I think Washington right now, they're undefeated, but that I just think that Washington is going to slip, and I still feel that Florida State is going to slip. And when you start to add those elements into who's going to be the top four, it gets really tricky, and it opens the door for Alabama, to be quite honest.
So do you think Florida State, you think they won't win out? I mean, looking at their schedule, it's not the hardest, but I mean, I could see them losing to Miami. That's about it.
Yeah, right. I mean, Miami, and then they're on the road against Florida. That's a rivalry game. I mean, watching Florida yesterday, I know it was against Georgia, but I just wasn't impressed. Look, Florida State has the wide receivers and the quarterback, Jordan Travis. I mean, he balled out yesterday. Teams going into this college football playoff committee with momentum. One of them is absolutely Florida State. One of them is absolutely Georgia. I would say Washington as well. And then Michigan and Ohio State. Those two teams are undefeated. So those are going to be your top five teams. And then this is where things get really interesting, though, is when, let's say Florida State is to fall. Let's say Michigan and Ohio State, one of those teams has to lose. But you have the Big 12. And with Oklahoma losing yesterday, now you have a one-loss Oklahoma and you have a one-loss Texas. If Texas is to win out and Bama is to win out, Texas has the edge. They will go to head-to-head 1,000,000%. Now, what happens if Oklahoma wins out and Alabama wins out, right? Do they still say, well, Oklahoma beat Texas, therefore they are better than Alabama? I don't know. There's some football left to play for the Big 12 as well. I mean, those two teams are certainly going to have a rematch in the Big 12 championship game. But I think the Big 12, being that Texas did beat Alabama head-to-head, that game is going to come back to play.
And then one thing else I also want to mention, I think it's going to be pretty tough these last couple of weeks, because when you think about it, that last game against Michigan, Ohio State, one of them have to lose. It depends on how they lose, too. So it depends on, whether they see them in the top four or not. So I think it'll be interesting.
Yeah, I do think it'll be interesting to see what plays out, with the Big Ten. But I think, reading in the comments, too, it's going to be hard pressed if the SEC is left out. I don't think the SEC champ gets left out. Even if Georgia was to have a loss in there and they, come back and they already beat Bama or whoever it is. I mean, the SEC gauntlet, and I certainly think schedule of strength should matter. And that's going to be a good question for Coach Saban, is not necessarily what are your thoughts on the playoff rankings, because he's going to dodge that 1,000,000%, but he needs to start arguing about schedule of strength 1,000,000%, because look at Alabama's schedule of strength compared to some of these other teams. We've talked about it all season long. What would Florida State's schedule be if they played Alabama's schedule? Could they beat a Texas? Could they beat a Ole Miss? And I think we'll learn a lot from this LSU game, because Florida State could say, hey, we beat LSU. And that's kind of the win that they are standing on. Came way early in the season, but it doesn't matter. They're able to beat LSU head-to-head, which is a great win.
Mm-hmm.
All right, let me ask you, man, before we get to my next caller, give me your early take now that we kind of turned the page. Bama, LSU, we've been talking a lot about LSU's electric offense. They also had an open week. What is your overview of Alabama versus LSU?
I think if Jalen Merrill is efficient, I know he gets a lot of slack, man, but the guy's young, it's his first actual start of this season, but I think he's doing better. I think he's doing better than what people expected. I think people wanted him to do bad, which I think is crazy in my opinion, but I think if he can be efficient, I think if we can have just a little bit of run game,
Mm-hmm.
I know we'll be dynamic on the outside. I think defense will be a key because LSU offense is explosive.
Mm-hmm.
Jaden Daniels is a legit quarterback. He can run and he can throw.
Mm-hmm.
Then you have a really, really good receiver out of Neighbors. He's really explosive. So I think that's going to be a challenge. I don't know if Malachi will be on him or not, but I think that's going to be a very good challenge. And I think if our defense can create a turnover or two, maybe, I think we'll have the edge over LSU.
Yeah, I think a turnover, and I say it sounds like I'm a broken record because I say this every single week, but I think it would be so instrumental if Alabama is able to get some sort of a turnover in the first half, kind of like you've seen the blocked field goal against against Texas A&M, and you saw Jahad Campbell with the scoop and score. That type of play in the first quarter, what set the world on fire is a Kool-Aid pick six on Jaden Daniels, right? Because the Alabama fan base, it will erupt, and you have to continue. And Coach Saban's going to press on that once again. The fans need to come with it, and I think they 1,000,000% will. And I've always said this: when Alabama changed the stadium lights at Bryant-Denny Stadium, that is the number one place to watch a college football game. The way that they have a DJ, the way that they have the lights set up, I mean, it is an unbelievable atmosphere. If you're going to the game, you're going to absolutely love it, because that game has everything that you want at 6:45. Marcel, I got to run to my next caller, man, but I really appreciate you starting off the show. Have a blessed Sunday, and we'll talk to you next time.
You too as well, man.
All right, man. Take it easy. Okay. Marcel out in Detroit getting the party started. 601 and a 4-2-3 coming up next right here on Bama Football on YouTube. I appreciate you guys being here. Hit the thumbs up, like, subscribe. If you are a business owner out there, we have some some areas that you could put your logo on this show. And of course, other ways to fan fund this YouTube channel include becoming a fan funder. Look for the join button. If you're on desktop, on your mobile phone, hit the hyperlink on the YouTube home channel, and then of course super chat. So everything goes a long way right here at Bama Football on YouTube. But of course, a thumbs up and just being a subscriber also helps. We're at 94,000. I think we're marching closer to 95,000 subscribers right here on Bama Football on YouTube. With that said, we go back to the phone lines, and it's a 601 to start it. Hey, good morning. You're on the line with Kyle Henderson. Who am I on the line with, and where are you calling in from?
Hey, good morning, Kyle. It's Jacob Pensacola. How you doing?
What's up, Jay? I appreciate you calling in, man. What's crazy is so today we have Bryce Young and William Anderson playing each other, which is amazing because those are the first round pick last year and the third round pick, and the first player taken from the offense and the first player taken from the defense. The crazy thing is that Bryce Young, and as talented as he was, Heisman Trophy, number 1 pick, didn't win a natty.
Right. I think, if Kevin Steele was on his defense and Kevin Steele's on defense, and I would even say if we had Tommy Reese, I'll go as far as saying we had Tommy Reese, that Bryce Young would have won that championship.
Yeah.
If Kevin Steele had Jameson Williams and John Mechie, and we had Isaiah Bunn, Jermaine Brand that we do now, of course, the argument all day goes, if Jameson Williams didn't go out, we would have won off the rip. So
100%.
But I have 3 questions for you before you answer me the questions.
Okay.
So my first question is, do you think if when Alabama beats Georgia in the SEC championship, would they do to them what they did to Kansas State last year? Kansas State beat TCU. but yet they put TCU in there.
Yeah.
Still.
Yeah.
It would still wanted to pick that season.
No. And the reason is because if Alabama continues to win out, they are going to start to turn heads. People are already starting to talk about Alabama. Here we are talking about Alabama being,
right.
Are they even a top 4 team? People are starting to talk about them in the national media. And I think that if Georgia is undefeated, that will be a playoff play-in game, 100%. But I see what you're saying. Like, if Alabama is to beat Georgia and they still take Georgia over, I don't think so, because they'll look at Alabama's overall schedule and overall resume and the teams that they have played and kind of the gauntlet of how they were able to show resiliency. And I think that will just be a playoff play-in game. Now, that's going to be interesting to see if Georgia just does have one loss in that game. Let's say Alabama and Georgia is tight. Does Georgia get left out, or do you take them over? Let's say it comes down to a Michigan who didn't reach the Big Ten championship. Should they lose to Ohio State, it could come down to that. Or do you take a one-loss Georgia over a undefeated LSU team from the ACC that didn't play the type of schedule that Georgia did, right? Like, there's a lot of variables that go into it. If Alabama clearly loses another game, they're out of it. We know that. So Alabama's only chance, and I think when you play around with that ESPN All-State predictor and you say Alabama win out with the SEC championship, they have a 94% chance to make the playoffs. But when you do the same thing with Florida State and you have Florida State winning out, even winning the ACC championship, they only have a percentage of 60% to get in. So I think what that is telling me between the lines is the fact that schedule of strength certainly matters. And it totally should. I mean, these two teams have played. Florida State's schedule is a lot different than Alabama's. With that said, Georgia's schedule has been super light, but they're going to be able to play Missouri, Tennessee, and I guess Georgia Tech at the end of the season. So they have some tough games coming up, and of course the SEC championship. But Georgia's schedule has been super light.
Agreed. But the second one more of a statement, but I can get your opinion on it. If Nick Saban decided to do the same thing Florida State did, like jump in the transfer portal and transfer portal heavy,
mm-hmm.
if he actually did that and got actual quarterback out of there, like one of the top quarterbacks that was in the portal,
mm-hmm.
like if he would got DJ, they went to Oregon State.
Yeah.
If DJ could have came to Alabama, it'll be a different team. You know what I'm saying? But Nick Saban believe in the guys he already got.
Mm-hmm.
So he didn't have to jump in that portal heavy. But do you think for a second we would did the same thing that Texas did, that Florida State did, that a lot of other teams did, portal heavy, that we would be undefeated, and we would probably be ranked number 1 right now.
I was curious to see if, I don't know. I mean, number one, Alabama has gone to the transfer portal just to fill needs. They haven't gone to completely redo their roster because they have guys on their team. I had said even last season that Alabama would take a transfer quarterback just because of the fact that Jalen Milroe and Ty Simpson didn't have a lot of experience. Now, did I know it was going to be Tyler Buchner? No, absolutely not. I think there was some other guys that were in the mix, but when Tyler Buchner came, I think that maybe Tommy Rees told Coach Saban, or, by looking at the film, because even Coach Saban said that, what they saw on film from him and what they saw in that bowl game that he played in, they felt that, he could come in and compete. Remember, he was in the Great Cake Bake-Off this fall against Milroe and Ty Simpson. Other positions where you could have looked to bring in a transfer, I don't know, maybe the offensive line and maybe that left tackle position. How about that? If they would have brought in, a transfer left tackle, I think, that probably transforms this team overall, but not necessarily the quarterback position, because I think Jalen Milroe is just taking him a little bit of time to get going. I think the one that kind of got away from Alabama that maybe the people talk about is Drake May and what could have been if he would have stayed committed to Alabama, right? Because Drake May has a lot of, I think he's a first round projected draft pick in this 2024 draft, because he was committed to Alabama and then decided to go elsewhere. But I don't know. I mean, Alabama has filled, what they've had to for the transfer portal. You look who guys have come in. Tresman Marshall came in. He's done a really good job. He's kind of a split starter. And then same with Jalen Key. If Jalen Key doesn't come in, and Devontae Smith was certainly hurt. And I think he was going to initially be the starter, but Jalen Key has came in. He's been a solid addition as a safety. And then Trey Amos, he's kind of been a split starter. Maybe not a split starter, but he's come in, for Terran Arnold. And I think he's done a good job. So Alabama, the way that they go into the transfer portal is to fit needs, not to fulfill their entire roster. But I think maybe the left tackle, if Alabama would have, brought in a left tackle, I think that certainly transforms this team.
Definitely. I got one more question. Then we can get to your questions. It's like to me, it's like a dumb question, but it's something that could work. I had an idea. So, you know how we're in the fourth and goal, and we finna kick a punt. I know James holds the ball, but if we got Ty Simpson to hold the ball and make a trick play, I mean that could possibly work. I mean, I know I know Lane Kiffin would probably be the person to try something like that, but it's just an idea, just a thought. But I know Nick said not the tricky play type person. So
yeah, they don't really do too many. There hasn't been. I mean, I don't think even this season we've seen like a reverse pass, have we? I think we saw it in the springtime where Jermaine Burton threw a pass or something like that. But overall, they really have stayed away from trickery. Now, regarding the holder, James Burnap is that guy. And look, Will Reichert, and you don't want to take money off the board. And every time you get Will Reichert there, whether that's a PAT or a field goal, it's like almost automatic. And, I've kind of wondered that sometimes because you always have the backup quarterback be the placeholder. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, maybe that's, that hasn't necessarily come up. Or maybe James Burnap can throw the rock if he needed to. I don't know. He's doing a good job, too. Right. As a punter, he's probably, if you look to like underrated players this season, I think James Burnap has been certainly an underrated guy. I mean, he's been able to flip the field so many times this year and change the field of possession. I think when you look to the defense, that gives them so much confidence because James Burnap has been able to pin teams so deep. I think he has, 12 or 13 punts that are inside the 20 this season?
Yeah, he's been clutch.
Yeah.
Definitely been clutch this whole time.
All right, so now
Bama a top 14.
Yeah, it's Bama top 14. It's time for my questions for you. I mean, and as of today, I mean, when you look, and the thing that I was thinking about yesterday was like a lot of these teams, there's so much parity this year in college football. So I think it's worth talking about. I mean, is Bama a top 14? I mean, what's your take, Jay?
I would say as of now, they're not. I would say before the season's over with, they will be. In my opinion. I mean, you still have the undefeated teams, of course. I mean, with the undefeated team playing each other, they won't be undefeated. So I feel like by the end of the season, the Bama will be. I'm hoping for it, but I mean, if they continue to play to an elite level. Just like they did in the second quarter of Tennessee, second half of Tennessee, if they play like that against every other game they have remaining, then it's going to be. I feel like we will be that number 14 because, I don't know if Miami can pull it off against Florida State. Like I don't see either between Miami or this it or Florida Gators, and I'm not depending on them to beat Florida.
Yeah. All right, so what's your college football top 4 then? Because I think I'm going to say they're not a top 4 team today, and it is what it is. I mean, they certainly can be, and beating LSU is going to continue to bolster their resume 1,000,000%. We all know that. But who is your college football top 4 today? I already said mine: Georgia, Michigan, Ohio State, and then Florida State.
And I have to kind of agree. I mean, those are the only undefeated teams left. I mean, I would go in that exact order: Georgia, Michigan State, Ohio State, and Florida State.
Yeah,
they are undefeated. So all three of them. So I mean, they until beaten, they're going to be number 4. They're going to be the top 4.
All right, and my last thing for you before I get to my next caller, your early take on Bama versus LSU. I know we've hit on it a couple times, but when you look at this game, what are you thinking about kind of keys of the game? What are kind of some themes to this coming weekend? By the way, College Game Day coming back to Tuscaloosa. Last time they were here was when Alabama and Texas played. So when you look at this game, what's your overview of Bama versus LSU?
I like College Game Day, but I feel like it's just bad mojo when I'm coming up. but it's beside the point. I think if the defense can contain Jaden Daniels, and if Jalen Milroe and Tommy Reese, because it all depends on execution. If they can execute every play, if we can get a score. Now, not even a touchdown. We can get a score on every drive that we have. Every time we get the ball, we can score, whether it be a field goal or a touchdown.
Mm-hmm.
But we can score on every drive.
Yeah.
And stop Jaden Daniels.
Yep.
We're going to win this game.
Yeah, 100%. I think that points on the board against a team that is averaging like 40 points or whatever per game. And none of these, when we talked about this before, Jay, is like you can't have these drives that stall out. You have to have drives that put points on the board. And because LSU is coming with a game plan and a quarterback and the wide receivers to be able to put up a lot of points, even against Alabama's stellar defense, this team is going to get theirs. We know that they're challenging a lot of first round picks on that team. So I appreciate you calling in, Jay, to bat second in the batting order, man. Please call again next time and we'll catch up with you. We'll catch up with you soon.
All right, have a good day. Roll Tide.
All right, roll Tide to you. That's Jay out in Pensacola. We got a 423 up next right here on Bama Football on YouTube, and we got 3 lines that are open. Calling line is 205-850-1994. If you call in and you get a busy signal, that means that the lines are full. So we appreciate you guys calling in this morning. My name is Kyle Henderson of Bama Football on YouTube. I already told you guys my top 4, which is Georgia, Michigan, Ohio State, Florida State, and then I have Washington, and then I have Oregon. I guess I could see the playoff committee putting Florida State ahead of Ohio State. Does it matter? Not really, but kind of looking at those top 5s, I think the top 5 is pretty easy. And Washington being undefeated as well, especially with the win over Oregon, it works out pretty well. Where it gets squirrely is that 7, 8, and 9, those like kind of next in line teams, because the fact that Oklahoma just lost. And how do you think that affects the playoff picture going forward? Because the Big 12, you have, and they don't even, the way that the Big 12 works is they don't have 2 different conferences. They just play, they don't have divisions. So they're going to play the 1 and 2, which will be Texas and Oklahoma. And I think that those teams, if we were to ask those fans, that they think that that is a playoff play-in game. Just like Alabama fans are talking about, that's a playoff play-in game for Alabama and Georgia. I think the Big 12 feels the same way. Michigan and Ohio State, they're on the same side. They're on the East, and the West is just terrible. So that one-loss team is going to say that they have a claim to make the playoffs as well. And then you have the Pac-12, which has undefeated Washington team. But as we talked about earlier in the show, Washington still plays Utah, USC, Washington State, and the Pac-12 title game. I don't think there's any way that they survive that. Appreciate the support, William. You're a fan funder. How do you become a fan funder? William, tell people how. You hit the join button underneath this video on the homepage, or if you're on your phone, you can just scroll up and hit the hyperlink. It's a bunch of weird words that are put together. There'll be a join button featured soon. I know YouTube is working on that, but for now, it's that's kind of the way to get on there. But we appreciate you guys. All right, next on the phone line, we got a 423. Let's do it. Hey, thanks for being patient. Good morning. You're on the line with Kyle Henderson. Who am I on the line with, and where are you calling in from?
Hey, Kyle. This is Sean from Chattanooga. How's it going?
What's up, Sean? I appreciate you calling in, man. Hope you're off to a good start this beautiful Sunday morning, man. You got some sort of opening monologue, or you want to kind of dive into the 3 and out?
Not really, man. I was just kind of curious on like your outlook on maybe like the Ole Miss versus Georgia game.
Yeah.
Of course, I'm an Alabama fan, but I was just wondering because we held them to 10 points, I think, Ole Miss. Mm-hmm. And so, like, I was wondering maybe, like, what they might do there. I was just kind of curious on that. But as far as that goes back into the to the LSU game, if we can hold them, low, and every time Milroe snaps that ball and turns his back to the left side, I'm freaking about to break my TV because he just stands there. And then he is plowed off the left side. I'm just like, oh, my God, man.
I think when you look to Georgia's remaining schedule, I mean, we thought look, Georgia was favored by 14.5 against Florida. They clearly covered that game. So their next game's in line, Missouri, who is much improved. And then they have Ole Miss, and then they have a road game at Tennessee. Now, the game against Ole Miss, look, Lane Kiffin, can dial it up. I mean, the first half against Alabama, I mean, they gave Alabama everything that they could have. They were leading at that game. The quarterback, and they use him really effectively, and that running back is really good as well. I think Georgia knows that people are starting to feel that Georgia is also vulnerable. And I got that because of the press conference last night. If you watch Kirby Smart, and he's like, there's people that felt that we're going to lose against Florida. So they're starting to get some reverse rat poison as well. Of course, they have the target on their back, but they know what they're playing for. And they think that people think that they are beatable without Brock Bowers. They proved yesterday that they can still move the ball around effectively. They have two really good running backs, and it's Georgia football. But the schedule has been light for them, 1,000,000%. Missouri, Ole Miss, those are going to be challenging games. They're both in Athens. They do go on the road to play Tennessee, which I think will be challenging. That Tennessee team was a lot better than I thought they were going to be. Neyland Stadium, they have a lot to play for. That quarterback's really good. Josh Heupel, he seems like he's kind of pissed off because he knows that team is pretty good. And it should be a challenging environment in November for Georgia. And then they have Georgia Tech to end their schedule. This is a good team. I don't really have a status update. I don't know if there is one on Brock Bowers, but I want him to come back. I want him to play in the game against Alabama. If you want to be the man, you got to beat the man at their best. And I hate the fact that when Alabama and Georgia have played in the past, there's been so many pivotal injuries specifically for Alabama's side, right? You can even rewind all the way to the game where Tua went out with his ankle injury. Then you rewind the game with Jameson out. Then you look to Mechie out. And a lot of those added elements, not to say that Georgia wouldn't have won those games anyways, but they certainly did impact the overall outcome of those games. So, yeah, that's kind of my take on Georgia. But still, I think the road is really easy for Alabama. If you have an undefeated Georgia, that's what you want. You want an undefeated Georgia. You want to play them at their best. And if they beat them at their best, you will have zero people saying that Alabama should be out of the playoffs. They're in 1,000,000%. What else you got, man?
Okay. Just one thing, and I'll let you get to your questions. But I work in Chattanooga, and I went to the UTC campus the other day.
Yeah.
And they're loading up, right? And they're getting on the bus, and they're going to play some no-name team. I forget who. I asked them who they were playing. I can't remember what the team, but I said, well, I'll be looking. I said, what position do you play? And he said, offensive line. And I said, well, I'll say a prayer for you when you play Alabama, because that dude's going to get killed. But other than that, yeah, man, I can take your questions if you like.
Yeah, I mean, those games have always been on the schedule. So you have the South Florida, I guess that was supposed to be one of those early season games, those warm-up games. And you have the back-end game where you almost have 2 weeks to prepare for Auburn because of the physicality that comes with the game. And you have Chattanooga coming in this season. Just like I was looking at the schedule, Florida State, they have Miami. They're playing at Florida, and then penciled in there is a Northern Alabama, right? So some of these teams, just like Chattanooga getting ready for Alabama and Northern Alabama getting ready for Florida State. You're like, what? But those are the games late in the season that keep you healthy, and those are the games that aren't really trap games. Although, do you guys remember when the Citadel came to Tuscaloosa and they were running the triple option, and you don't see the triple option, like the old school triple option, like the triple option that Air Force used to run. And the Citadel, they were only down like 3 at halftime here at Bryant-Denny Stadium, and Coach Saban was pissed. And so he always gets mad, and people are like, how do you think some of these younger guys are going to do against Chattanooga? And that'll just like light him up. He's had some good sound bites on that. Anyways, okay. So the majority of callers that have called so far have said Bama is not a top 4 team, and I get the rationale. But overall, I'm asking this question because there seems to be a lot of parity in college football, and I was like, man, like Washington just refuses to lose. They're so close to losing, and we've seen that same thing with Florida State, and we saw the same thing with finally we saw it from Oklahoma, but some of these Ohio State was another one. These wills to win, and that's why I'm asking, are they a top 4 team? What's your take, Sean?
Well, I don't do kind of like what ifs.
Yeah.
So I hear some people say, what if we just move them to this position, or we move this person to that position? Well, they're not doing that for a reason, I guess. But So right now, I'd probably have to say no, they're not a top 4 team. But if they can get seasoned kind of like a cast iron pan, then, maybe they'll be good one day. I mean, better. I hope so, because my wife got me hooked 10 years ago, and now I have this addiction called Alabama, and I can't shake it. So I hope they get a lot better. But like I said, if Milroe can watch that left side, and they can do what they're supposed to and just execute properly, I think they'll be just fine.
So who's on your top 4 right now? When you look to the college football rankings, I mean, it seems to be pretty easy. I mean, is there a change at 1 through 5? I mean, is Washington better than Florida State? I mean, who knows? I mean, you just said what ifs don't really matter. I agree. But just for sake of it, what does your top 4, top 5 look like right now?
It's really, I agree with you with the Georgia, Michigan, Ohio, and I kind of flip between the Huskies and Florida State, but I've been to 2 Florida State games, one against Vanderbilt and one against Wake Forest, and that place is electric when you go there. Mm-hmm. So I kind of tend to lean towards FSU, but sometimes FSU does like what Tennessee does, and they get there, and then Tennessee does Tennessee, mm-hmm. and so they slip up at the last moment. Mm-hmm. Which has been the case for the last 6. I thought that last year that they were going to, kind of go the way, but then they just did what Tennessee does best and fall through the cracks. But, that's what it is. So I'd have to say, Georgia, Michigan, Ohio State, and FSU. Yeah.
And getting on Tennessee, though, I think when you look to the press conference of who the maddest coach was after the game, it was certainly that we've seen so far for Alabama has been Josh Heupel in his post game. He was so mad, and I love that when he was like tapping on the table. He was furious about that game, and Tennessee fans are mad because, I felt like they thought they had it in the bag, leading 20-7 at halftime. I mean, a lot of people did. I was like, man, they really have Alabama on the ropes, and for Alabama to come out and to control that second half. I mean, like Justin Abogbe said, they want to play 60 minutes of football. So your early take on Bama, LSU, kind of the overview, early thoughts, concerns, excited about what's your take, Sean?
I think it's going to be a good game. But maybe I shouldn't make this comparison, but do you kind of feel like if you watch that Daniels dude, does he kind of remind you of Bryce Young? I know that's kind of like almost like spitting venom, but I mean, they kind of like built the same, aren't they?
I mean,
I know he's not as good as Bryce Young, but he's kind of like elusive like that. Like they try to get tackled, and he just dips a dude and then runs.
Yeah, he's certainly a dual threat quarterback, and he has the weapons on the outside, no doubt about it. I don't know, like comparing sometimes, there's some quarterbacks that you can compare with. I mean, the thing about Bryce Young, which made him so, I love the nickname that he used to have, but it didn't stick, was the gingerbread man, because you could not hit him. Like you couldn't. And the guy was able to keep his and the thing about Bryce Young too is like later in his career, his arm strength got stronger and stronger and stronger. The thing with Jaden Daniels is like his ball placement is so accurate, and that's what is concerning. I think his deep ball really reminds me of, who had an amazing deep ball was clearly Jalen Monroe was killing it, but like it felt like the accuracy of Tua Tagovailoa's deep balls were something I've never seen in college football before, honestly. Is he the best Alabama quarterback? I don't know. There's room for debate on that. But the way that he had a deep ball presence of accuracy, this Jaden Daniels, he can put the ball wherever he wants to. That's why I think the Alabama's corners, the secondary is going to be really challenging. It's up to that secondary, the Dallas Turner, the Chris Broswell, to really create pressure and get after him and control him from running the football too, because he is a dual threat quarterback. So, Jaden Daniels, the guy is the guy for sure.
I don't think they're going to go after if they do try a deep ball threat, I don't think they're going to go after Amos or Arnold if they have to switch out. I think they're going to try Kool-Aid, because Kool-Aid never looks back. He always uses that boundary, that out the edge to push them out, but he never looks back. And I've seen him get beat a couple times doing that.
Yeah, I've noticed actually Kool-Aid too. You're like, turn around and make a play on the ball. But he does use the boundary, and it seems like he doesn't whip his head around like corners should, especially in one-on-one situations when you're out on an island. That's what was so concerning about Tennessee, was how they split those wide receivers boundary to boundary. And you saw the same thing from South Florida, is they spread their wide. I mean, they use 53 yards of the field. And the quarterback has a strong enough arm to get you in space and get you in islands. But yeah, I mean, Neighbors is an absolute ball. I mean, they have so many they have, I think, 2 wide receivers. One Alabama definitely wanted. And you know who is also on their team that people are, from LSU. I was on an LSU show, and they were excited about. Remember Aaron Anderson? Aaron Anderson is over there.
Yep.
And they're like, we're hoping that
we would have seen one more year of Eli Ricks, but I wish we would have seen one more year of him. But that dude, I guess he went professional. Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah, he did. I think he's playing with the Eagles. I don't know if Eli Ricks was really kind of. I mean, I think he could have definitely done better if he would have came back. But with Aaron Anderson, I think when Coach Saban talks about the transfers, and I get it, the wide receivers are doing a great job, but he got injured and then left. And who knows if there was like some tampering or whatever, because I think that's kind of like a rumor that went on. But I think Aaron Anderson was a player that, could have fit in some capacity. Then again, like all these sophomore wide receivers, I was listing out the players coming back. I mean, all these guys are sophomores, the wide receivers: Isaiah Bond, Kendrick Law, Kobe Prentice, Emmanuel Henderson, Jalen Hell. We've seen him a couple times, especially against Ole Miss. So the wide receiver room is stacked. So maybe it wouldn't even matter. But anyways, anything else on this Bama LSU game, Sean, before I get to my next caller?
Sure. Just one more question, quick question. Is he still above Jalen Milroe as far as percentage of completion into deep ball?
Who's that? Jaden Daniels? I can look it up in 2 seconds.
Because I know it was like him and then Milroe at one point in time, but I don't know. That dude's, I don't know, maybe he's pretty dangerous, I would say. But I mean, if they can just contain him and maybe create pressures to make him miss, because that kind of dude, I don't think you're really going to like offset him too hard. It's just that if you can get him out of rhythm.
No, his
interceptions or maybe miss a drop pass.
Okay, look, I'm gonna bring this up on the screen for everybody to see. Let's see. Check this out. This is crazy. So we're looking at Jaden Daniels' overall passing depth. Okay, so this is on Pro Football Focus. So Jaden Daniels, deep balls, 20 yards downfield. He has a grade of 99.9. His medium is 79.4. Short passes, 68.2, and then behind line of scrimmage, 71.1. Deep left, 96.5, 98.6 down the center. These are over 20 yards downfield and 95.1 to the outside right. Like you can see the stats. The stats are crazy. Here's his passing tree. 6-9 to the outside left, 227 yards with 5 touchdowns, 8-14 between the numbers, 333 yards and 4 touchdowns, no interceptions. I guess the thing with the deep ball is, as you can see, his NFL passing ratings are through the charts, and he hasn't thrown interceptions. The only interception that has come has been across that middle of the field from 15 to where he's 15 to 24. But yeah, I mean, the guy is certainly on fire. I think he has just 3 interceptions. Is it 3 interceptions or 1? Yeah, I think it's 3. Yeah, he has 3 interceptions. 1 to the center and then 2 to the right. But overall, I mean, the guy is fantastic. I mean, clearly the numbers, show it right there. So that's on Jaden Daniels, complete baller for sure. And like Jarvis is saying, he can hurt you with his legs as well.
Yeah. Okay. Well, cool, man. Thanks for taking my call. I hope you'll have a good weekend.
Yeah, you too, man. Take it easy, Sean. See ya.
You too. Bye-bye.
All right, that was Sean calling in from Chattanooga. We got a 256 and we got a 334 coming up next right here on Bama Football on YouTube. Kyle Henderson, Bama Football on YouTube, and as David said, he is ranked second. That is Jalen Milroe behind Jaden Daniels in terms of the deep ball. We'll get to the next caller here momentarily. My name is Kyle Henderson of Bama Football. If you are new to the channel, be sure and hit the subscribe button. I'm getting closer to, I think, 95,000 subscribers right here on Bama Football on YouTube. And I'm going to be coming to you guys live this week at 9 in the morning. So if you want to call, you can get a hold of me at 9 a.m. And if you don't get inside the call queue, or if you get a busy signal, that means that the lines are filled. I have 4 lines. I do pay for each of the lines. And, that's just, that's how I could really have 12 lines, and I think all 12 lines would light up, but you have to pay the small fee for each of the lines, and it adds up if somebody's on the line. Cause like some of the callers are online for like 24 minutes and I'm trying to like get to them. And that's just the call-in show. So I appreciate you guys being patient. And with that said, we go on to a 256 and we'll start right now. Hey, you're on the line with Kyle Henderson.
Going, man?
Who am I on the line with, and where are you calling in from?
What's going on? I'm from Weaver, Alabama, man.
Okay, cool. What's your name, man?
My name is Luke. Just a few things, man. I don't know if LSU has faced our defense, the type of defense like we got.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the only thing that kind of like settles me out about this whole situation.
Mm-hmm.
Because our defense is stopping everybody.
Yeah.
And as long as they do most of the work, Jalen Milroe is going to take care of the rest.
Mm-hmm. And I think that has been...
Everybody's hating on the dude. Everybody's hating on Jalen Milroe, who lost us 2 games last year, who didn't win a natty the year before that and last year.
Mm-hmm.
But no one called for Bryce Young's head.
Mm-hmm.
I love Bryce Young, great quarterback. But if we're going to, call for Milroe's head, why y'all didn't do it last year to Bryce Young when he lost 2 games?
Mm-hmm. It seems like the scapegoats were Bill O'Brien and Pete Golding, right? Whereas like every single time something, right?
Because everybody liked Bryce Young.
Mm-hmm.
Why don't they like Jalen Milroe? Is it a style? Is it not to bring up race, but because he's darker than Bryce Young? Come on, man.
I think honestly what it is with Jalen Milroe is 2 things. I think number one, I think some of that is on Coach Saban, the way he handled the early season quarterback battle, right? By not naming somebody, and what that did. And I get it, he's playing chess or whatever, but I think that like him not naming a guy created division, right? And I think it became like the fans became split. Right. So now you're starting to see more people jump on the Milroe bandwagon, but there was a great amount of people, maybe 50% or whatever, that were pulling for Simpson and Buckner. And then the rest were pulling for Milroe based off what had happened last year. So that was one of the things, right? Why people aren't sold on Milroe, because they're still kind of hurt that they wanted Simpson or Buckner to be the starter, probably more Simpson. And then I think the second thing is that those 2 interceptions that Jalen Milroe threw against Texas affected the fan base monumentally, because that was still during the time of the cake bake-off. Because so people still wanted to see, they were like, see, I told you so. And then the fact that there was a rumor that went around that he was benched because of his attitude against South Florida. So that may be a third thing. And that became like an attitude thing. We don't even know if that was true or not. We might just think that it might just be the case that Saban was giving Simpson and Buckner opportunity to showcase their skills at that time. But I think those 3 factors have carried over and kind of been like the stigma on Jalen Milroe, whereas like Bryce Young was the guy before and then was the guy again. So I think that certainly has transpired to some of the reason why people don't like Milroe or haven't bought into Milroe just yet. But I mean, the guy continues to improve. And people will point out all the bad stuff just because, that he's under a microscope following the number 1 pick in the NFL draft, because he's behind Tua Tagovailoa, because he's behind Jalen Hurts, because he's behind Mac Jones. I mean, there's no other quarterback room in the country that has as much pressure and scrutiny as the current quarterback at Alabama. 1,000,000%. I mean, look who just played on primetime football last Sunday night. It was Tua versus Jalen. Right. So like this dude is taking over the reins for the number 1 quarterback, like and I'm not saying so the expectation should always be high, but I think with Jalen Milroe even more, the microscope is on him. And then the way that everything was handled in the front has, kind of been the spillover to what we're seeing this year.
Yeah, I can't tell people how to look at situations, but if you pay attention to, football or past players, look at what Bryce Young's doing in the NFL right now, because he doesn't have help from the offensive line.
Mm-hmm.
Shit like that, you should be able to take that and be like, okay, well, I see what's going on with Jalen. I don't think Bryce Young could have won that Texas game this year.
Mm-hmm.
The penalties were what killed us. We won that game.
Mm-hmm.
Let's not lie to ourselves when it comes down to it. We won that game. And that's why now I'll go into one of your questions, kind of the top four, and I can't put Michigan sign stealing, so I ain't worried about them. They're about to start losing.
Mm-hmm.
Or Washington, they're not playing anybody, man. My top four is Ohio State, Florida State, Georgia, and Alabama, bro.
Mm-hmm.
Georgia ain't played nobody either, and that's another thing I'm worried about. They lost Brock Bowers. They got a schedule coming up.
Mm-hmm.
If they lose, what happens when they lose? And then, so what? We beat a 11-1 Georgia in the SEC championship.
Mm-hmm.
Then what happens?
I think what happens, and good call from Weaver, Alabama. I'm with Luke. I think what happens is if Alabama is able to continue to run the table, and if Georgia is to lose a game or lose two games, I think that I think the fact will be that Alabama has momentum and that they have won what will it be, like 9 or 10 games in a row at that point. And I think because they lost early, that shouldn't affect them overall. And I think winning the SEC championship will certainly bolster them into that playoff spot. Alabama beats Georgia regardless of what Georgia. Now, it's going to matter way more if Georgia's unbeaten, but even if they have one loss, it doesn't matter. I think the fact is that Alabama has been rising all season, a late win. I don't think Alabama gets left out.
All right. Yeah, that's what that was my biggest thing that I've been thinking about, because, Georgia lost Brock Bowers, and they ain't played anybody with the defense at all. They haven't played a team yet.
I know their schedule. Their schedule has
they
been
have the most
like
cakewalk schedule.
Yeah, their schedule. Their best win right now. Would you say it's Auburn, or would you say it's Florida, or would you say it's Kentucky?
Their best win is Florida. Their worst win is Auburn.
Right?
Auburn should have won that game.
I know, until Brock Bowers just completely took over in the third quarter, fourth quarter. It was crazy.
But that's the saddest thing, like Auburn almost beat them.
Mm-hmm.
A few other teams killed them in the first half. They haven't been nothing but a second half team.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, that kind of is with us too, but we've played people.
Mm-hmm.
They haven't played anybody. They're a second half team against trash.
Mm-hmm.
So
I guess
we played trash, when Jalen Milroe started and we played Middle Tennessee, we got to our second string quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
We wiped the table with them.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like even though I think they should have looked at so much more besides Milroe when it came to that South Florida game. I don't know if they wanted to play other people or what to see where they were at, but I feel like they should have stuck with Milroe and went all the way out and played them other people in the second half or something.
Mm-hmm.
Because, even though Milroe's taken it like a champ and came and won all these games, his head could have been somewhere else during that Ole Miss game and all that shit because of the way things were going.
Mm-hmm.
The man was afraid to get pulled.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. I've been with Milroe since last year. The man came in on an offense that wasn't planned for him and won 2 games for us.
Mm-hmm.
He's proven that he's going to win, and you can't put all that stuff on Texas on him. The man, he threw 2 bad interceptions. How many interceptions did Bryce Young throw last year? I don't even remember, so I'm not going to say a number, but during that LSU game and that Tennessee game, he probably threw 1 or 2, if I remember correctly. So, I mean, those things happen, but I don't know. Anyways, if LSU can hold up to, if Alabama can hold up to LSU's offense, if our defense holds up to offense, we're good.
Yeah.
That game's already done with.
I appreciate the call, Luke. Call in anytime, man. You got anything else before I move to my next caller?
Nah, that's really it, man. Just believe in Milrow, believe in our defense, and we gonna take it to the ship.
Appreciate it, man. Thanks for calling in, man. I hope you have a blessed Sunday, man. Call in next time for sure, Luke. All right, man. Roll Tide to you. All right, that was Luke out in Weaver, Alabama. We have a 334 and a 337 coming up next right here on Bama Football on YouTube. You know, I didn't even know that because I'm not from Alabama. I didn't even know some of these places existed until I started cruising around Alabama this spring when I joined this golf amateur tour. So I would go up to I know people know of like Muscle Shoals, but I'd never even been up there before. I'd never been to Florence. I'd never been to Huntsville. Never been to like West Mobile, of course, been down at the beach, but some of these other spots, getting to know people and interact with people from all over the great state of Alabama has been a real treat for me, to be honest. I mean, Weaver, Alabama, I'm gonna have to look up where that is. I mean, some of the places I don't know where they are, but I love the passion. And the other thing about the shows that I love is there are so many Alabama fans from across the country, right? Like Marcel led off the show from Detroit. And, these guys are lasered in on the program because you see what Coach Saban has done, over the course of his time. And then you have the older fans under Bear Bryant. So I love the fan base. It's just so spread out. It's if you look to like comparable NFL teams, you have like the Pittsburgh Steelers. There's fans all over, right? Dallas Cowboys, 49ers. And a lot of that is because the past and it's kind of carried over. But I think that's the same thing with Alabama. The brand is so big. With that said, we go back to the phone lines in a 334. Let's get it started. Hey, thanks for being patient. You're on the line with Kyle Henderson. Who am I on the line with and where are you calling in from?
It's Coach from Calera.
Hey, what's up, Coach? I appreciate you calling in this morning. It's a beautiful Sunday. The weather is amazing outside. Yesterday, we saw Washington survive. Florida State had a big win over Wake Forest. I don't know like big but I'm just saying it was dominating. Jordan Travis balled out. Ohio State, they hung in there against Wisconsin. Oregon with the big win over Utah. I'm asking people if Bama's a top 4 team. Who knows? It's a hypothetical, but I mean maybe we just moved to 2. College football top 4 and kind of the parity in all of college football. What you think, Coach?
For me, Bama still to me is not a top 4 team quite yet. Too inconsistent right now. And I could match them up against Georgia. I still say how they've been playing the first half, kind of 2 different toes of football. I still don't give them advantage against Georgia. Against Michigan, maybe. It was hard to say with Michigan because Michigan hasn't played anybody. Everybody keeps saying, I know Greg McElroy keeps saying, Michigan the top team, complete team. I'm like, anybody can look complete when you play against a bunch of nobody. Mm-hmm. You pick Alabama and Michigan schedule and Michigan Alabama schedule. You ask yourself, is Michigan still undefeated? Can they still look dominant? Mm-hmm. Then Washington, they can be so good, but in the last 2 outings, they haven't looked that good. Mm-hmm. Yeah, they beat a good Oregon team, but they beat them at home. Mm-hmm. So it's like, kind of up and down. Florida State, again, they ain't playing nobody. They played LSU. And we'll know more about how good LSU was. It was the beginning of the season when Bama played them this weekend. Mm-hmm. So to me, Bama at number 5 to me. I have Bama at 5. Mm-hmm. If they beat LSU this weekend, eventually, I'll say convincing to be 10, 13 points. Then I'll say Bama's a top 14. Mm-hmm. But still that loss they got is kind of holding Bama back from being a top 14. Mm-hmm. They lost. They heard me, lost. A home loss. If there's a road loss, I'll probably say they top 4 now. Mm-hmm. But Texas came to Tuscaloosa and beat Alabama at home by 10 points. So it's kind of like, it's kind of hard to put Alabama in front of Texas right now. Even though Oklahoma, Kansas, this football season is crazy. I tell everybody, you haven't seen all the upsets yet. It's going to be some upsets. People that you don't expect, like yesterday, nobody would have said Kansas is going to beat Oklahoma yesterday. It's going to be some losses like that coming up pretty soon. It might start happening this weekend coming up.
And I was thinking about this too, like in the rankings or whatever. I mean, it comes down to if you start comparing teams who lost the game, and I think there's going to be plenty of teams who lost the game. Who did you lose to and when? Yeah. Right? So, like, for example, Bama lost to a top 5 team or whatever. Or they were a top 10 team at the time in Texas. That's a loss is a loss, but that was at the time they lost to that team. Texas, when they lost to Oklahoma, that was another top 10 loss. And then Oklahoma, they just lost and you lost to an unranked team. So that's kind of why in my rankings, I'm looking like, who did you lose to and when did you lose? If you lost to an unranked team and you lost late in the season, that tells me a lot about your team, and that should be impacting your rankings, right? Because if those teams and I use that when you compare these two teams, Alabama and Oklahoma, because people are going to be like, well, Oklahoma beat they're going to be like Texas beat Alabama and Oklahoma beat Texas. That is going to be the rationale. But you could spin it and say, well, Oklahoma lost last in the season. What have you done for me lately? Right?
And that's what I say too. Oklahoma lost yesterday, so they lost like late in this kind of season a little bit. So to me, that's a worse loss to an unranked Kansas team that got beat by 30 points by Texas. And this time of the season, that's why I said Oklahoma probably going to drop outside the top 10. They're going to have to. So Oklahoma had to look good in their last 2 hours. They had to look good. Like I said, Bama is looking better. Texas is still looking in the same boat. So Texas is still going to be ranked a little bit above Alabama because the head-to-head matchup. But Oklahoma-wise, they got a drop. They lost to an unranked team. Texas lost to a ranked Oklahoma team. Alabama lost to a top 10 ranked Texas team. So Oklahoma is going to fall out of top 10.
What is your take, Coach, on Florida State and Washington?
Florida State and again, like Washington, it's hard to get a read on them. They have Michael Penix Jr., the quarterback, but they've been looking inconsistent. They'll throw the football a lot. You know, as the season gets tighter, it's hard to throw the football. You got to be able to run the football and play good defense. And they've been looking pretty bad on defense, and they ain't been able to run the football. And if you can't do three of those things, you're going to lose. And they're going to lose. If they play Oregon again, Oregon's going to beat them in the Pac-12 championship. So I would say Washington, I'm not worried about Washington right now. But Florida State, they're the weirdest team because the ACC is down. North Carolina lost to Georgia Tech yesterday. So every time one of these ACC teams lose, it's hurting Florida State right now. It's hurting them. So Florida State has barely got a slip up in their hands. And they slip up from them, the ACC is not going to have a big a team to play off. And I like Florida State. Florida State got a good running game. They got a good passing game. They play good defense. They can put pressure on the quarterback. And their special teams are solid. Florida State is a solid football team. But if you compare them right now against Alabama in a neutral site, ain't nobody in their right mind going to pick Florida State to beat Alabama. They're not going to pick them to beat them. Same thing with Washington. Ain't nobody going to pick Washington to beat Alabama. So my thing is, if they're going to do the playoffs like they did last year and say, hey, we're going to put the deserving teams in or we're going to put the best teams in. And that's what I understand with the college football playoffs. When they first started, it was all about the best teams going to get in the playoffs. Then last year proved to us they wanted the most deserving teams. And you can't say deserving is all the same because the conference script is different. Look what Alabama played. And what can they play like? They played Mississippi State, Ole Miss, A&M, Tennessee. This week they got LSU. Like those, like three of them teams are ranked. Let's look at Michigan over there. They play nobody. Oh, they're the best team in the country. That's not fair. You can't rank them teams. Like the rankings should not come out until about week 5 or 6 of the season. Because you can't compare Alabama and Michigan. Alabama can risk getting hurt because they play in similar competition. Michigan starters don't play in the second half because they play in cupcakes. And everybody playing and beating has losing records. Look at Alabama. Nobody they played besides Mississippi State this week has a losing record now. Everybody else got winning records. And that should take the fact. Again, the playoff committee don't think like how we think. We thinking like, okay, get the best teams. They thinking, oh, it's politics. Let's get the most deserving teams. I can't wait until you get 12-team playoffs. Bama going to make the playoffs every year. Bama going to be a 2-loss team in the playoff every year and got a chance to win. Bama, hands down, Bama got great talent. I tell you about it. This team we see this year is going to be total opposite next year. And again, Bama, to me, Bama is better than Florida State and Washington, who they done played. Yeah, they lost a game, but you're going to lose game, you can't risk it on your schedule. You play tougher competition.
I was thinking about this too with your point about the ACC not being strong. I mean, it hasn't been strong in my opinion for a little bit of time. I mean, I guess, before Clemson, turned into whatever they turned into. But yesterday, Clemson lost to North Carolina State, and Florida State should have lost to Clemson. Like they should have. The guy lined up for a field goal and shanked it, right?
Yep.
I mean, so it's like, I mean, so that kind of shows you, and I think you're right. Like that should impact, you know, kind of the overall outlook for, you know, the ACC. With that said, look, I watched Florida State yesterday. I was like, I'm going to sit down because it was at that 11 a.m. window, and I watched him. The quarterback's good. He's solid. I don't think anybody's doubting that. The wide receivers are ultra talented. Just overall, it's just, you know, it's kind of not. I don't buy them, but they keep winning. Like D Myers inside the comment box is like, Florida State's winning, and that's it. Like they're winning 100%. So, all right, Coach, let's get to Bama LSU. What's kind of like the early look, early outlook? We've talked about it a couple times. Is there more to LSU than Jaden Daniels? When I asked Brian Kelly this summer about what it did for their program, he said, we now know, and the players know, that we can play with Alabama. We can beat Alabama. And I think that, you know, Brian Kelly is saying, look, we beat these guys last year. We can definitely go on the road and beat these guys. Look how Tennessee has played them. Tennessee was leading them at halftime. Ole Miss was leading them at halftime. I think if I'm Brian Kelly, I'm like, look, put together 4 quarters of play and we beat Alabama. We can beat these guys at halftime, but if we can go 60 minutes, we can beat them because Ole Miss was leading them, Texas was leading them, and Tennessee was leading them.
Yeah, it's different now because LSU down 4 or they starting defensive backs. You're not going to beat Alabama like that. Miro going to have a field day throwing the football this week. And I hope Saban allow him to throw the ball because to beat them, you're going to have to throw the football. Yeah, we can run it, do a decent, but we'll have to throw the football. But you think that's a major thing in this game people ain't talking about. LSU is down 4 starting secondary guys. 4. Not just 1. 4. So, yeah, we talk about Jaden Daniels. What about defense? Alabama ain't no slouch on offense. Yeah, they struggle at times, but this might be the game where they don't struggle in the first half. Because you being down that many secondary guys, it's going to make your defense very vanilla. You're not going to want to blitz Alabama as much. So now Alabama's going to be able to run the ball. Bama remember what happened last year. And another thing, they playing in tough to lose. And Daniel's going to have spots and times where he's going to do well because he's a good football player. Like I tell everybody, teams have good football players too. Alabama the only team that got good football players. But it's going to come down to can LSU stop Alabama. Alabama don't slouch on offense. They didn't have times where they don't look good on offense. But when they catch fire, Bama scores 30 points real easy on you. And I feel like Bama defense is just good enough. I know Neighbors is good. The other receiver they got is good. But Bama going to put pressure on the quarterback. You're not going to have all day for that football either. Bama going to have pressure. Their secondary is good. Bama secondary is awesome. Yeah. Like y'all, a caller said something about Kool-Aid don't get his head around. I've been fussing about that since last year.
Yeah.
Like Kool-Aid do not play the ball. Like he played the sideline. Like he was having interceptions. Because he was face guard receiver the whole time and try to push him out of bounds. He never makes a play on the football. And I don't understand why he the only DB that Bama got that does that. He do not play football. And I think that would hurt him for getting pass interference. So I hope this week he worked on possibly act like he get his head around something. But again, the LSU game ain't going to be a good football game this weekend. I tell people, I said Bama going to win 38. I said 38-24. 38-24. They're going to have the LSU going to probably add a touchdown to end the game to make it more convincing. But Bama going to have about 4 sacks on the quarterback. Miro probably going to pass about 280, 285, 290, 3 touchdowns in the air, another 60 rushing. And it's going to be a game where the hype is going to be better than the actual game going to be.
Yeah.
I think Bama's defense is going to make the game a little different. They're going to slow the game down. They're going to run the football. And they're going to kind of corral him a little bit. Because last year, LSU had times in the game last year where they looked terrible as on a wet. LSU looked bad. James Daniels, he bailed them out. And Bama got film. You think Pete Coden, he was a hit and miss on defense last year. Some games he look really good, some games he look bad. Kevin Steele might have a hit and miss in a quarter, but he don't have a whole game hit and miss. I think they're gonna must rush Jaden Daniels. They're gonna make him throw the football. I mean, everybody like, oh, that's crazy. No, make him throw the football. His running was kill Alabama. Those broke down plays. Stop allowing broke down plays and make him push the ball down the field. And maybe we can keep 2 safeties high. They're gonna be key. Bama got to stop the running game. If LSU come out running the football, now we got to bring a safety in the box. Now we got 1 safety. Now we ain't got no help over the top. If Bama can make LSU one-dimensional and make them make them pass the football, we can keep 2 safeties high, keep 6 secondary guys in the field, and they're going to slow the game down a whole lot. Bama going to play a lot of cover 2 this game.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to make Jay Daniels fit the ball in tight windows. They're not going to allow them long crossing routes with deep throws. They're going to force him to throw the ball underneath, and he can be patient enough. And, you know, against Ole Miss, he wasn't that patient in the first half. And against Missouri, he wasn't that patient.
Mm-hmm.
So if you put everything in front of him, must rush him. Because when you cover 2, you can must rush. You can get pressure on the quarterback. All thing hurt Alabama, they play man a lot. When you play man a lot, if you don't get pressure on the quarterback, the receiver's going to get open.
Mm-hmm.
I thought they're going to do a lot more cover 2 this week.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of cover 2, keep things in front of them.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of DNs slowly get pressure on the quarterback. They're going to try to scramble some, but when you see in his zone, when you got pressure on, you don't look like you're supposed to look sometimes. He might throw the ball across the middle, might have a linebacker, somebody pick the ball up. But I don't think the game's going to be as tight as everybody thinks it's going to be. Because LSU can't run football. Bama's going to make them one-dimensional.
Mm-hmm.
Bama can do that too.
Mm-hmm.
And Bama's going to beat LSU. I mean, I don't feel no doubt. I felt doubt against Tennessee last week.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like Tennessee feels good up front. They play good defense. But with LSU, they cannot run the football consistently. Then you down 4 guys in the secondary. It's like you got too many people overlooking all that stuff because they got Jaden Daniels. You can't overlook that in the SC game. On the road, too. Mm-hmm. Maybe if you was at home, but on the road, man. Have you thought about that? I heard nobody say nothing about that yet, about the DBs being out. Have anybody said anything about that yet?
Yeah, we've talked a little bit about. Yeah, we've talked a little bit about the fact that they're going to be missing some guys on the defensive side of the ball, which I think are certainly going to impact the overall outcome of this game. And I do think that you do bring up a good point. Is like kind of the hype will be bigger than the actual game itself. And I think like if Alabama comes out on top, like you said, 38-17, and they come out with a huge W. These college football playoff rankings that are about to drop Tuesday, they mean nothing. The ones after that mean nothing. But in terms of the momentum, what a win like this will do by a large margin, if they're able to. And has there been, Jarvis, if you're out there, has there been what's the line on this game? What's the early line on this game? If there's someone inside the comment box, drop their. What is it?
4.5 Alabama.
4?
4.5 Alabama.
Wow.
Yep, 4.5 Alabama.
Oh my goodness. Wow, 4.5. That's tight. Man, that's crazy considering.
I know that's tight.
Man.
Jaden Daniels up that team, Bama a 17-point favorite. They figured that Jaden Daniels can make some magic happen like he did last year.
4.5.
I'm trying to tell you, it's not going to happen like last year. Because Bama defense is a lot better. And Alabama at home. I guess they try to add in all these slow starts Alabama have. Yeah. And they think Alabama going to get down early in the game. Mm-hmm. That's what they thinking.
Mm-hmm. Man, that's crazy. 4.5. All right, Coach, I got to run to my next caller, man, but I appreciate you breaking down LSU and Bama. I'll be on all this week, man, of course. So hit me up anytime. We'll talk football.
Okay. I got you, man.
All right, man. See you, Coach. All right, Coach calling in with the good call. Talking about defensive strategy against a very talented quarterback in Jaden Daniels, who's coming in. I didn't realize I didn't look at the line this morning, but I didn't realize it was 4.5. I think against Texas it was 6.5, right? But 4.5. Considering that LSU does have some injuries on the defensive side, yeah, I think like Fred is saying inside the comment box, that is certainly disrespect for what this team is doing. But with that said, I mean, all those numbers they don't mean anything. The college football playoff rankings, I mean, they're going to be fun to chew on and kind of get an idea of what the committee is thinking about. And I think one of the things that I'm curious to see where Alabama is at is because I want to see how this lack of putting 4 quarters together each week has really impacted their overall resume to this point. Now, with that said, you're going into some games where everyone's going to be watching that LSU game. Everybody. It's a perfect opportunity. Look, you don't. All you have to do is win out. But I'm saying it's an opportunity to show continued growth from this team, and I think they're going to do that. I mean, I don't know if they're going to win by 14 points or whatever, but 4 points, they certainly covered that. Okay, we got a 337, a 904, a 251, and a 516 coming up next right here on Bama Football on YouTube. I'll get to you guys as soon as I can. But with that said, we go to the phone lines with a 337. Hey, David, what's up? I appreciate you calling in. Good morning.
What's up, man? Good morning to you too as well.
Well, it's almost, I guess we're moving more towards midday. So I know a lot of people probably about to, get Sunday supper ready. That was kind of, like the word supper was something that we used at my grandma's house. And like, to me, like supper was kind of that lunch window, right? Between like 12 and like 2. And then there was dinner, right? Am I making sense, David? Right? Like there was like supper. Kind of a word that's getting erased now. Anyways, what was your take on college football yesterday? Who's your top 4? What you got for me?
Well, I got Air Force number 3, James Madison number 4. They're 2 undefeated teams. I'm just joking. That would be the top 4, like you mentioned. Georgia, Ohio State, Michigan, and FSU right now. Reason why I say FSU is because they, they beat a pretty good offensive team in LSU. Mm-hmm. I know it was like the first game of the year or whatever it was. People still got their butterflies and stuff like that, mm-hmm. And, you practice all year against your, on the off season against your defense and your offense. And until you play another team, stats don't mean crap. Anything written on paper does not mean diddly squat. That's like yesterday when Oklahoma got beat by Kansas. Kansas 6-2. Oklahoma was undefeated, and we see how that ended. Look at Utah, ranked number 13 in the nation, and this is the first time that, and I forgot how many years they said, that Utah has not scored a single touchdown against whoever it was they played yesterday. I can't remember. But, Oregon. Oregon. All they had was 2 field goals. And I think it was 29 out of 30 meetings or something like that Utah has beat Oregon, And, so, paper don't mean nothing. It's like, if you look at how Alabama's played against their teams, their opponents so far this year, the highest ranked defense that we played was against A&M. The second one would be Tennessee, and the third would be Arkansas. You look at LSU, the highest ranked defense that they played all year is Arkansas, which was ranked number 37th in the nation the last time I had looked. So, that doesn't mean nothing, just because it's on a piece of paper or on a computer or whatever does not mean nothing. It's the dog in the fight. It's like a saying I heard: your identity will be tied to whatever you give your heart to. And if Alabama, the players, could give their heart to that moment in football, their identity will be shown. And they did that in the second half against Tennessee. They came out and they said, we want our identity to be known as we are a top 5 or top 4 caliber football team. We haven't shown that this year yet, but we're going to start showing it now. I wish it had been like that from game 1 till now, where they went in and just dominated. But, it does, like I said, things on a computer and on paper don't mean diddly poopity squat until you get out there and you actually show it, prove it, and Bama's just got to grab the bull by the horns and start doing what they're supposed to do.
What do you think about Oklahoma losing and Texas losing as well? So now you have 1-loss teams, and then you have Bama with a 1 loss. If we were ever to get to the point where Bama wins out and, one of those teams from the Big 12 wins out, do you think they seed Oklahoma or Texas? I guess Texas, if Texas wins out, they would seed them over Bama. But, do you think that, if it got to that point that Oklahoma, would be ranked over Alabama? And that's why I also am curious about 2 teams, really, Alabama and where do they put Oklahoma? Because clearly, Oklahoma has to be behind Texas Tuesday night, right, David?
Well, the way I look at it is you know, when we played Texas, they were both top 10 ranked teams.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it was in the top 10. Texas was in the top 10. Texas beat out, you know, Alabama.
Mm-hmm.
Oklahoma wasn't even in the top 10 conversation at all until later on in the year. Well, if I was part of the committee, which I'm not, you know, I'd be more biased, but, you know, still, I would look at it like, you know, Bama, Texas. All right, Texas beat us head to head. All right. Then you have Oklahoma, who beat Texas. And then you have Kansas City, a team that nobody even really hears about. You know, the Jayhawks come in and, you know, a 6-2 team beat an undefeated Oklahoma and gave them their first loss of the year. There's no way that I could ever put Oklahoma ahead of Bama, even though, you know, I don't know how many ranked teams Oklahoma's beat this year or anything like that. I mainly try to keep up with Alabama, and I can't help but keep up with LSU because I'm stuck here in Louisiana. But, you know, but if it comes down to it, and I'm afraid, this is just my personal opinion about it, I might be wrong, but this committee, as you've seen over the past couple of years, has been biased against Alabama big time because of the domination that Nick Saban's had since he's been there.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they don't want another Alabama national championship.
Mm-hmm.
They would rather see Georgia three-peat or Ohio State or Michigan or FSU win a national championship or be in the playoffs over an Alabama, even if, you know, it's for a one loss or whatever. I just, because some of these people on the committee, they don't know nothing about football. I mean, I'm just saying. I mean, it's just, in my opinion, they don't know much about football. But yeah, if it comes down to it, and Bama's only got one loss, even if we're an SEC champion, that may help us. You know, if we go in and beat Georgia, if Georgia can go undefeated, you know, the rest of the year, because they still got to play Tennessee, they still got to play Ole Miss, and they still got to play, I believe, Kentucky. I'm not for sure. I don't know who all they got to play, but
no, Georgia still has to play Missouri, Ole Miss, Tennessee, and Georgia Tech.
Right. I mean, you know, because Missouri can upset Georgia. They could. I'm not saying they will. Ole Miss can do it, you know. But just think about this. If Ole Miss had the defense that Alabama has, that would be a scary, scary, scary football team to play against. Because, you know, Ole Miss don't have much of a defense. They have a legit offense. They do have a great offense. There's no doubt about it. I mean, they would probably be ranked number 1 or number 2 in the nation right now if they had an Alabama defense. I mean, because Kiffin and them, they put up the points. They put up the points. There's no doubt about it. But if Ole Miss can step up a little bit more on their defense against Georgia, and against Georgia's offense, there's a possibility that Ole Miss can beat them because they have the power on offense to keep it close, you know, and possibly Missouri. I don't know much about them. I know that they've been good this year. First time they've been good in the SEC since they've been in the SEC. And Missouri could possibly upset them, you know. As far as Georgia Tech, it's in-state rivalry. It's possible, but I doubt it, you know. So, Ole Miss, I mean, Georgia could be a 2-loss team in the SEC East, and who would we be playing in the SEC championship? You know, I mean, because I don't think it would be Georgia with 2 losses. You know, they're gonna pick the SEC team out of the East, which would be what? I guess Missouri's in the East. I don't know where they are.
Yeah. So I'm gonna bring up the standings for everybody to look at because I think they're worth looking at. Okay, so here are the SEC standings, and we're looking at the East right here. So you have Georgia, who is currently, I'll bring that full screen so everybody can see. So you have Georgia, who is 5-0 in conference play, 5-0 at home. And remember, they play Missouri and Ole Miss at home. So they are 5-0 in conference, 8-0 overall. Then you have Missouri. So Missouri's still in the mix in that game. Clearly there'll be a lot on the line for that game. And then you have Florida at 3-2, Tennessee at 3-2, and then you can see in they've won 8 in a row. Missouri's won 2 in a row. And then on the west side, you have Alabama, who is 5-0, 7-1 overall, 4-1 at home, has won 6 in a row. And then you have Ole Miss, who I guess is still in the mix as well. If Alabama was to drop 2 games out, and then you have LSU, who's still in the mix, but they have, they lost to Ole Miss. That's why Ole Miss is ahead of them. And so that's kind of a look at an outlook. Yeah.
So Missouri ends up beating Georgia head-to-head, Missouri would be the one playing for the SEC championship, just like what happened last year with LSU and Alabama. We wouldn't have lost to LSU on the last play of the game, and we'd have, finished out the season. Then we'd have been playing for the SEC championship, because I know it goes like supposed to be head-to-head, blah, 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 if it's close to a tie or whatever. So I believe Missouri would be playing Missouri if they do beat, especially if Ole Miss can beat them and Missouri beats them, would be playing Missouri in the SEC championship. I'd rather probably play Missouri. That way, shut up all these dog fans over here, that were repeating and stuff like that. And I'm not taking nothing away from Georgia. They have the crappiest schedule in the whole country. They don't play nobody. But they have been consistent, pretty much through the year. Yeah, they've had some slow starts like we have. But it seems like the last few games, they've just went in and just started, running over everybody, and that's what Alabama needs to do against LSU this coming up weekend. We have to keep our offense on the field as long as we can, moving the ball consistently, no penalties, wear down LSU's defense, and keep their offense off the field. We have to do that, because once you put LSU's offense on the field, and I know everybody's like, they ain't played a defense like ours, and no, they haven't played a defense like ours yet. But it seems like Alabama does have problems against dual threat quarterbacks. When we played Tennessee, that Milton, he ran the ball pretty decent at times against our defense. We've got to contain Daniels. Kool-Aid has got to have some eyes in the back of his head, because every time I've watched him, he is just looking at this guy in his eyes like he's wanting to kiss him on the lips, or something like that. It's just, you can't do that. You have to turn your head at times, especially when you see the receiver throwing his hands up to make a play on a ball or something. Turn your head, because like I said, there was several times I've seen him where he could have had interceptions, and then change the dynamics of the game, especially in the Texas game. He just will not turn his head for nothing. I mean, golly, I don't know what position Jake Pope plays, but I like to see him take that position if he has to.
He's a safety. Hey, David, I gotta. We ran over a little bit, man, but I gotta get to my next caller. But I appreciate you calling in. Thanks for the context, and we'll catch up next time. Okay.
All right, brother. You have a good day. Roll Tide.
Roll Tide to you. All right. That was David out in Louisiana. Got a 904, a 251, and a 516 coming up next right here on Bama Football on YouTube. I appreciate you guys joining me this fine Sunday. Let me know which NFL game you guys are watching today. I'm watching the 49ers and the Bengals today. That will be a game that I'm excited about. The 49ers have dropped 2 in a row, 2 games consecutively, losing to the Browns and the Vikings, man. So, but I appreciate you guys joining me today. We're talking about the college football playoff rankings. There's a lot to talk about because the playoff rankings drop on Tuesday night. You also have Halloween taking place Tuesday night. I live in this neighborhood where there's going to be about 10,000 trick-or-treaters. So I went to the store and bought all the candy. Candy is expensive. So I went to Sam's Club and I loaded up on candy. Anticipating, the neighborhood will be just overtaken. Avery Johnson, remember him, the basketball coach? By the way, Alabama has a basketball scrimmage today against Wake Forest. I think that game's was it at 12 or is it at 2? I don't think you can watch it, but you can listen to it. Anyways, the old coach, Avery Johnson, he used to give out full-size candy bars. And he used to give like every single kid that went over would get like 5 of them. So Coach Johnson was, spending cash on Halloween. But the 31st is also Coach Saban's birthday. He'll be 72 years old, so we'll get a chance to hear from him tomorrow at 12 p.m. We'll bring that to you right here on Bama Football on YouTube. With that said, we go back to the phone lines, 904-251-516 and 850. You guys are all up next right here on Bama Football on YouTube. Hey, what's going on? 904, you're on the line with Kyle Henderson. Who am I on the line with and where are you calling in from?
What's up, Kyle, man? It's Jannard calling from Jacksonville, man.
Hey, what's up, man? I appreciate you calling in. Say your name one more time.
It's Jannard, like Jenard, like Nard.
Yep.
Like Jannard.
Cool, man. I appreciate you spelling that out, man. Welcome to the show, man.
Well, you already know I'm glad to be here, Kyle, man. I'm a big fan of you, man. Man, bro, I just wanted to touch in on some of the things y'all was talking about. And I want to take you back to the 2015 Alabama team with Jake Coker at quarterback. He was a fifth-year senior or senior coming from Florida State.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody had doubts. And that team was a one-loss team. Like I tell everybody, Alabama is going to be counted out on anybody's roster because, like you said, nobody wants to see Alabama in the playoffs, yet alone in the championship, because we were forced to reckon with. I'm not biased. I'm very grateful for Kirby Smart being up under Nick Saban, and Georgia is a good team. But honestly, bro, and I'm being honest, nobody is better than us in the country. And I'm not saying this because I'm an Alabama fan. I'm saying this because I watch day in and day out what you guys watch. Miro is he's a good quarterback. Yes, he is. But the thing with Miro, what people got to understand, he only can do what he's told. You got to open up the playbook for Jalen Miro. We see Jalen Miro struggles throwing the ball across the field. We see that. So if I know my quarterback struggle throwing the ball across the field, I'm going to open up more run plays. I'm going to open up more RPO. I'm going to open up more wheel routes. I'm going to open up everything else because you got all this talent like Isaiah Bond, and you got people like, the freshmen that really can catch the ball. You got Nye Black and all them. They want the ball, but it's kind of hard. So if our line steps up, and I like the last caller said, if Kool-Aid can get his head around, and we can put 4 quarters of football together, nobody's better than us in the country. And I'm not saying that because I'm an Alabama fan. I'm saying that because I watch day in and day out. This team is coachable. The 2015 team was coachable. If you got a coachable team with talent, you got a championship team because they're going to listen. You understand what I'm saying? So it's like, to get to your top 4, and I'm being honest, like, we're going to rise in the ranks. As long as we handle business against LSU, Georgia still got to play that hell of a schedule, like you said. Ohio State, Michigan still got to play each other. All that's still going to unfold. The Pac-12, the Big Ten, the only thing out of the Big Ten that showed me consistency was Texas. You got to give credit to Steve Sarkisian. Yeah, Oklahoma beat them in a thriller, a rivalry, but you got to give him credit. The man winning with a second-string quarterback, and he's determined. Like, when he beat us, he didn't beat us because we lacked. They was better than us. He beat us because he knew, hey, look, I know this Alabama team. They're aggressive. You got to be more aggressive than them. We got to open up the playbook on them. If you open up the playbook on them and you keep them on their toes, we're going to beat them. You got to play 4 quarters with them. You can't slip up against us. Just like, I don't know what year that was. We had Auburn, 28-0 one year in the championship, and they came back and won. It was something like that. But they knew they had to stay relentless. So basically, I'm going to get to what you got to say. Bro, nobody's better than us in the country, and I'm not biased, bro. If somebody was better, I'll tell you, Kyle, look, this is what it is. They're better. But nobody's better. Georgia put up their best performance against Florida. That was their first sack of the year. They got 4 in that game. The last 2-3 years, Georgia was known for their sack defense, known for their secondary, known for not letting nobody run on them. And when we played them in the SEC championship with Bryce Young, we hung 41 points on that number one defense.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we had Bryce Young. Yeah, we had James Williamson. We had Williamson.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing was, we still made options for Bryce Young.
Mm-hmm.
If we make options for Jalen Miro, we're gonna go far. We just have to open up the playbook. Tommy Rees, I'm not saying nothing bad about him, but he has to open up the playbook.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just simple as that. Our defense, they got it. Kevin Steele, yeah, he might struggle in a quarter, like the dude said, but 4 quarters of football, Kevin Steele's going to get adjusted,
mm-hmm.
and they're going to play, and they showed us that.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, I feel like we're going to win the championship if we can get consistent with opening the playbook. We can't open the playbook in the first quarter, in the second quarter, run, throw. No, it don't go like that. You
Mm-hmm.
got to stay consistent with the ball.
I wanted to
And
show
that's just pretty much that, bro.
I wanted to show everybody, since you brought it up. Let's just look at just to look at that. I think you bring up some really good points, by the way. But I wanted to show. Let me bring this full screen just so we can look at it. This is let's see if we can find it. This is the 2015 team. Just to look at it. Here's the offense. See if you guys can see that. Okay. All right, here's the 2015 Alabama offense led by Jake Coker. So wide receivers on the outside, you had Calvin Ridley, Robert Foster. On the right, you had Adarius Stewart, Cam Sims, and then your tight end was O.J. Howard, anchored by at the center position, Ryan Kelly, Ross Pierce-Baker, Cam Robinson. Yep. Running backs. Look at that running back room.
Yeah.
Derek.
Yeah, monster.
Derek Henry, Kendrick Drake, and Damian Harrison. Jesus, crazy. Adam Griffith was the place kicker, and then J.K. Scott, who was unbelievable, was your punter, and then you had Cyrus Jones as your punt return. Yeah, that's
Cyrus Jones. Yeah,
man, that's crazy. And then on defense, look at these these names on defense. Deron Payne, Ashawn Robinson, Reed, Cyrus Jones at corner, Marlon Humphrey, Minka Fitzpatrick, Tony Brown, safeties, Hootie Jones. You had, let's see, Reuben Foster, Reggie Ragland, Eddie Jackson. Man, that's crazy. It's so crazy how good some of those teams like. And I get it. Those teams had to transform as well. Let me see. Can you guys?
Yeah, because before, and I don't mean to cut you off. Before Calvin Ridley became a dominant player when he was a freshman.
Uh-huh.
When Florida had that dynamic cornerback, I forgot his name, but whoever that Florida cornerback was, nobody had threw on him. Nobody was scared. They were scared to throw deep on him. And as soon as we played him in the SEC championship, we threw a 60-yard bomb on him, and Calvin Ridley caught it on 2 people. You know, so it was like, you got to be relentless, bro. And if that offense can get relentless, which I see it coming, bro, we're going to win the national championship. And that's, long as God wake us up. That's not me being biased at all. Like I said, I hands down to Kirby Smart. But like everybody's saying, you got to play somebody. When you going against Alabama, everybody wants to beat Alabama. Everybody wants to get on the Alabama schedule. So, of course, we're going to have a dogfight every game. But when the people see Alabama have a dogfight to come behind and win a trail, that's because they used to Alabama hanging people to zero and not letting nobody score on them and shutting people out. Well, times has changed. Everybody wants to beat Alabama now. So everybody's going to play Alabama hard. And I'm not going to, dwell on that topic for a long time, but just to, say this, Kyle, man, as long as we handle business at LSU, like I know we will, then it's a clear path for us because Georgia got some of those tests that we had to do already, and they have to be relentless. If they win, by God, I want to see Georgia. Nobody else will want to see Georgia. I want to see Georgia in the SEC championship because that is a statement game.
Yes.
It's a statement game, letting everybody know that we're still the number one team in the country. It don't matter if you put a number one by our name. Football is centered around Alabama, not Georgia, not Texas, not Notre Dame. It's centered around Alabama, and that's just the simple fact of anything.
Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, and that's why, things will work out how they're supposed to be for Alabama right now, because it completely lines up for Alabama to control their own destiny. We know that they just have to continue to win. I know we have some Georgia Bulldogs inside the comment box. We appreciate you guys spending your Sunday with us. And look, they are at the top of the mountain right now, and rightfully so. I mean, you look at the job that Kirby Smart has done over the last, 4 years? Like, he has finally gotten that program to where we knew that they could get, in my opinion, because they changed their offensive schematics. They went from a 3-yard cloud of dust to being able to spread the football out with dynamic wide receivers and a dynamic tight end, and also still maintaining that high level of running back play, and their defense has always been the same. So as soon as they transform to that, that's where they are. And I mean, we want Brock Bowers back. We want him back for that game, because we want to be able to go against Georgia at their best. And I think that's also going to add to Alabama's resume if Alabama was to get to the championship and was able to beat Georgia. I mean, it's really been impressive to see what they've been able to do. And, Kirby Smart is certainly rolling. Yeah. They got the defense. And you look at the players that have come over from Georgia, they're certainly playing here at Alabama, where I don't know if they were ever going to get on the field at Georgia. Jermaine Burton, he's certainly turned into wide receiver number 1 here at Alabama, and playing like the guy that he wasn't at Georgia, and he wasn't last year for Alabama. And you look at Tresman Marshall and how he's come over to Alabama, and he's been really good at the inside linebacker position. And I know Jahad Campbell is maybe, I don't know if he's starting to, overtake that position or whatever's happening, but you have a lot more depth, at that inside linebacker position. So, look, Georgia's done their thing, and everybody knows that, that is the team that has the target on their back. They are at the top of the college football mountain right now. And also, Coach Saban said this. He's like, look, there is a team east of us that has taken what used to be ours, and that is Georgia, who has taken the college football championship the last couple of years. Man, I got to run to my next caller, Jannard, but I appreciate you calling in and talking football with me. Please call again next time, man.
All right, thank you, Kyle, man.
Yep, see you, Jannard. Appreciate the support. All right, we got a 251, a 516, and an 850 coming up next right here on Bama Football on YouTube. I was pointing out that that 2015 season, just to close out Jannard's point, and because that was a year that Alabama had an early season loss, and that was to Ole Miss. I believe that was to Hugh Freeze, right? Who ironically Alabama plays at the end of the season because he's coaching at Auburn. But you see Alabama opened up that game with 35-17 victory over Wisconsin, then played middle, lost to Ole Miss, and then was able to rebound and kind of control the rest of their season, beating a number 8 then Georgia 38-10, beating Texas A&M 41-23, and as you can see, they continue to roll. Beat Florida in the SEC championship 29-15, and then beat Michigan State 38-0 before beating Clemson 45-40. So that was the closeout on that 2015 season. I appreciate Jannard bringing that to our attention. All right, these are the questions that I'm going to be asking you today. Is Bama a top 4 team? And I get it. A lot of people have said no, and there's been a few callers that have said yes, but for the most part, I mean, they lost, and there's teams that haven't. Quite simply, your college football top 4 right now in Bama versus LSU. With that said, we go back to the phone lines at 251. Let's do it right now. Hey, I appreciate you being patient. You're on the line with Kyle Henderson. Who am I on the line with, and where are you calling in from?
It's Robert from Mobile.
Hey, what's up, Robert? I appreciate you being patient, man. There's a lot of callers that want to weigh on the world of college football, so thank you very much for your patience, man, and I always appreciate what you call in, man. So why don't you kind of give us your assessment? I'm going to venture to say Bama's not a top 4 team. Is that right, Robert?
Yes, that's absolutely right. We still need things to happen before we can get to be a top 4 team. By any stretch of what fairness is as far as rankings go. Mm-hmm. So we still need help. In fact, we still don't quite control our own destiny yet. If everybody wins out and we, include Oklahoma, Ohio State, Florida State, Washington, they all win out. They still can get in over Alabama. In fact, I would still put a one-loss Oklahoma team over Alabama if it came down between the two. Can't get over the fact that, Oklahoma can hang their hats on. We beat the team that beat you. Mm-hmm. There's no getting around that. That's a tough one to get around. And and like your caller said, there's the SEC bias. Not just the Alabama, although Alabama bias is humongous, but there's SEC bias. You got a chance to get both SEC teams out if Alabama beats Georgia.
Mm-hmm.
And we're looking at it's between a one-loss Alabama team and a one-loss Oklahoma who beat the team that beat Alabama.
Mm-hmm.
That committee could very easily say, sorry, yeah, no SEC teams in this year.
Yeah.
Last year we can keep you all out, so you're out.
I've been thinking about that too, Robert. If there was a year to keep them out and to basically keep the Pac-12 in, or to like put a Pac-12 team in, this would 1,000,000% be the year to do it.
Yeah, they'll do that. Well, if a Pac-12 team is the champion undefeated, they're in.
Yeah.
This season, that's just how it's going to play out. Especially if it's up against now. If everybody's undefeated, Georgia, Ohio State, Florida State, then they'll keep the Pac-12 out in that case. But if it's a one-loss SEC team, no one-loss SEC team gets over an undefeated Pac-12 team. That's not going to happen. So no, we don't quite control our own destiny yet. We'll still need some help. And it's not just a simple matter of we went out, we're in. No, folks, that's not how this season's shaping out. We still need some more chaos. Oklahoma losing yesterday helped, but that doesn't necessarily eliminate them yet. We need now Washington loses, and then no Pac-12 team will get in over one-loss SEC team. No one-loss Pac-12 team will get in over one-loss SEC team.
100%.
But if they went out undefeated, then no, it'll happen. So, we shouldn't have dropped the game that we dropped. Picked a bad time to start getting better. We should have got better sooner. And I heard your previous call talking about Miro. The offense coordinator, he hasn't helped Miro.
Mm-hmm.
But everybody sees all the plays out there that Miro sometimes doesn't make, especially with the running back open in the flat. So, that's got to be pointed out to him, and he's got to learn to look there sooner. I'm seeing Jace McClellan and the other running back wide open in the flat with a safety in space, and that ball not getting to them. He's still looking down the field for his primary receiver, I suppose. But, the great quarterbacks and the really great quarterbacks, they know to look that off sooner, and they know to hit that flat sooner. And it's taking him a little too long to figure that out. If he ever gets that figured out sooner, hey, that's Chase McClellan open space with just a safety on him.
Mm-hmm.
Dude, let him try and give that to him. That happens a lot. And someone needs to point that out to him in the film, in the film room. And when to take off. His instincts for when to take off and run are, they aren't real super sharp right now.
Mm-hmm.
If he ever gets that sharp, like LSU's quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
That instinct looks really good.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Milroy is not. Don't wait till the second half to start doing it. Now, don't sit in that pocket. I think he wants to be a pocket quarterback, and athletic quarterbacks are what's ruling the roost, even in the NFL these days. So, man, may want to show out their athleticism. Maybe work on that pocket presence next year. This year, let's talk about winning us a game or two with those legs, more so with those legs. And that's so if we get that going, we're good. But yeah, there's plenty there. Like you correctly pointed out. No, dude, Alabama does not rule college football right now. That is Georgia. You're absolutely right about that, college. It was hard for us to take, but you don't win 2 championships in a row and not be the primary team in college football. Now, to his point, more people want to beat Alabama than they do Georgia. So still, there's that. Alabama is still everybody's Super Bowl more so than Georgia is, and the nation still hates Alabama more than Georgia, although it's getting close with Georgia.
Mm-hmm.
But right now, the road to college football, especially in the SEC, goes to Georgia. Mm-hmm. So because they're in that sorry East, and now they were in the West, that could be a totally different story. If they're in the West, and fortunately, finally, with this nonsense of divisions that have been stifling the SEC forever ends. This ridiculousness of the way the college football playoffs has been structured ends. It's just so ridiculous taking college football so long to make positive changes that can improve the sport. Mm-hmm. But, better late than never, I guess. So next year we don't have all these arguments. One loss doesn't ruin a team's season as it shouldn't.
Yes.
The best team shouldn't be eliminated because one loss early or one loss at a bad time. That's been the most ridiculous thing to me since I've ever heard of.
I know.
How many times that cost Alabama? Could you imagine Alabama and Auburn playing the next week after the kick six? Could you imagine that? What would happen? What Alabama would have done to Auburn? Does that cost Alabama another championship the way the stupid structure of the SEC was? That's one right there. I think there's another one that cost. But okay, it finally ends. We finally get to see college football the way it was meant to be. The best team with with a decent chance to win. You get to play these Alabama Texases early in the season without to worry about losing it, and your season's over. Whereas meanwhile, Georgia played Pat CU and EZU all season long, or Michigan all season long, or Florida State, and they get a free pass to the playoff because they played Pat CU and EZU all season long. Okay, yeah, that all ends now. Thankfully, college football, you finally getting it right.
Robert, give me your early take on this Bama and LSU game. Is there more to it than just Alabama's defense versus Jaden Daniels? Is there another element that you'd like to see? I know my good buddy Toby is saying, run the damn ball. When you look to this matchup and kind of the implications that come with it, or the storylines or the matchups, what are you watching for Alabama, LSU under the lights, 6:45 p.m. on CBS?
Well, again, it goes back to Milroe. It's time for him to be the matchup nightmare for other teams, as the classic running quarterback has been for Alabama. That guy gets you 110 yards, and they're just crucial when you need him with his legs, the way other quarterbacks, like the way LSU did Alabama last year. That's what to start happening. It's okay, Milroe. It's time to open this up, and I need some leg works here. I need some yards with your leg. He can if he decides he wants to turn into that early, then that's the key to the game. It's going to come down to him, and of course the play calling by the offensive coordinator. No question about that. He calls him play to get the ball out of his hands sooner. Why are the play designed for the ball to go 60 yards down the field so often? I know that's what he likes, but if he wants to be an NFL quarterback, the money is made with the game manager 10, 15-yard passes, 5-yard slant routes. That's where the majority of your passes have to go. So you better work on that. Help him work on that too. So those kind of passes, those kind of play calling, and from here on out, it's got to be Cam Newton 2.0. If you do that, Milroe, you're going to the NFL. Hey, we won a championship.
Yeah, I think, all eyes will continue to be on Milroe. And if he stands out and he comes through with this game. And the thing about it, too, is like you said earlier in the call, we really haven't even seen him try to take over a game running. And I'm not saying that he necessarily has to do that, but I rewind to a couple years ago when Bryce Young, we really didn't see him run at all. And he wasn't a north and south type guy. Like, I don't even think that he was that fast. Like, he's fast, of course, but more fast side to side. But against Georgia, I remember specifically he ran for like a career high 52 yards or something like that. So if Jalen Milroe ever has to take over a game using his legs, clearly he can. He hasn't done that. There was kind of that rumor going around that there was like a hammy or something like that. I don't think that was necessarily true. I think we're about to see it against, and by the way, thanks for the super chat, Claire. I really appreciate it. Thank you very much for the support. But we all know he could do that. I think we're about to find it out if he was going to do it against Arkansas, if somebody caught his leg or whatever, but because he was about to run 85 yards for a touchdown. I think that's a good added element is, kind of the play of Milroe, and if he can play high-level football against LSU, considering LSU's guys, looks like they're going to have some guys out in the secondary, whatever it is. I just think that, that's a good element to watch on that. And I think you have to continue to run the football effectively. Jace McClellan did a fine job against Tennessee. He ran for a very tough 115 yards, and those guys are playing great football. And, They might not be what a Jahmyr Gibbs was or something that, one of these other guys in the past that Alabama has had, but they've been dependable, and most importantly, they've been healthy. Anything else, Robert, before I move to the next call?
No, man. I'll catch you later.
All right, man. Thank you very much. I appreciate you being patient. Thank you, Robert. Appreciate it, man. Robert out of Mobile. This will be my last call. This 850. So 516. You can hang up and catch up next time. I don't want you to just wait on the line. So 850. Let's do it right now. Hey, thanks for being patient. You're on the line with Kyle Henderson. Who am I on the line with, and where are you calling in from? Hello?
Oh, I'm sorry. I had it.
Yeah, you're good, man. Yeah.
This is Raphael from Florida, Bama.
What's up, Raphael? Appreciate you calling in, man. Thank you very much for. We've moved into the 12 p.m. period of the day. We started out in the morning time, 2-hour show on Sunday. There's a lot to talk about, clearly. But Raphael, I really appreciate you calling in, man. Welcome to the show. You got something you want to get off your chest about this Alabama team, or you want to jump right into 3 and out?
Yeah, I just want to say, I feel like our fans is spoiled, man. We finally have a team where we actually have to compete. We're used to beating people by 20 plus all the time, and that's boring. You know what I'm saying? We have the team that we had to build from scraps and make them greater. And a lot of our fans are not used to seeing that. So I think they really doubt this team. And I'm sorry for them feeling like that.
No, I think you're absolutely right. I mean, I think that look, this is college football right now today. There's parity, and this season has been survive and advance, and every single week it has been a street fight. And this game against LSU, you saw the line; it just came out 4.5. They expect it to be another street fight. I think that Alabama fans have 100% been spoiled, and why not? I mean, look at the players that Alabama has always had, and they've always been who people are chasing, right? And they still are to some extent, but teams are getting better. They're starting to modify their offenses to keep up with Alabama. NIL and the transfer portal has continued to separate that gap, and I think it's really close. And there's nothing wrong with, look, people want to win every single game, and their expectations are so high here too. Everybody has the microscope on Jalen Milroe, this and that, but I think where fans get pissed off is the fact that they want to see, if the game is going to be tight, then at least play 4 quarters of football. Like the game that I think really made people mad was the Arkansas game, because they should have blown out Arkansas, right? But they only played 1 quarter of football. That was the game. But this win against Tennessee, that was a gritty win. To be able to come back in that second half and to make adjustments, that was really impressive to me.
And I hate to cut you off, but I'll say this. We had to figure things out with this team. We didn't play USF like we could have played them. We could have put Jalen Milroe in and beat them by 30 or 40 possibly. We didn't do that because we chose that as a scrimmage game to figure out who we were going to play and what we actually look like. And if you're a true fan, you know that. You know what I'm saying? You know that Arkansas is a great team. We were still figuring out things playing against Arkansas. Every game is not going to be great. Every team in the top 10 over these last 3 weeks. And my prediction was that I said 2 weeks ago that all of these top 10 teams are going to wash out. Right? These top 10 teams all have struggled against lower opponents. Unranked opponents. So you got to expect that. Sometimes we coaches use certain games to see what they can test against a greater defense that may be unranked, that they know they can beat. And you got to understand that.
And I think you bring up a good point. Is these teams that are currently ranked ahead of Alabama or whatever it is, the top 10 is definitely going to wash out for sure. These rankings that drop on Tuesday are going to be so much different even the next week and the week after that, because Washington going toe-to-toe with Stanford, that was a tough win for them. Ohio State, you get to this point of the season, it's difficult to win on the road. The weather changes. There's added elements. These guys get banged up. I think the weather had a little bit to do with the fact that Oklahoma lost to Kansas. It was pouring in that game. There was a lightning delay in that game. There's a lot of added elements that get stacked on to the back end of the season, and it's a gauntlet of a year. I mean, it's tough, and that's why the SEC. Who's that? Kansas?
Yeah, they were 5-2. They were a good team.
They were a good unranked team. This is probably the best Actually, that was the first time. Wasn't it the first time they've ever beat Oklahoma? right? I think it was the first time they've ever beat Oklahoma in football. Something weird like that. But yeah, they were a good football team. And on the road, I mean, even with that quarterback, Dylan Gabriel, who's an absolute baller, look, they lost. So, and like I was saying earlier, it's about where you lose now in the college football season. You can't lose late. There's no more losing right now. A loss right now, like you can't. Like the cutoff was a couple weeks ago. The cutoff was when Oregon lost to Washington. Everything else after, you lose and you're done. Unless you're undefeated, I guess. But still,
not that good. I'm sorry to tell you. Sorry to tell you, Oklahoma's not that good. They almost lost the last 3 games.
Yes.
They've
And
had.
you did. Yeah, they did. Because the Central Florida and Oklahoma game was tight.
Right. That's what I'm saying. UCF, like severely unranked opponent, a 3-4. They, yeah. I don't even want to talk about teams like Oklahoma. Like I told you last week, man, they don't want to see the SEC win the CFP, and that's what it's coming down to. It's coming down to them ranking bad teams good for it's propaganda, man. I'm gonna just come out and say it, bro.
They don't. Yeah, it is strange. I think James, even our Georgia fan in here, was like, yeah, they don't want to see an SEC team in the playoffs. The TV ratings would be down, and 2, if this was a year to kind of put in an undefeated Pac-12 team or an ACC team, this would 1,000,000% be the year to do it. But that's I guess we'll just have to see how they shake out. I still think that Florida State slips up, and I still think Washington slips up. So those are 2 of those teams we're talking about in the top 10 that should kind of wash out. I think it's going to be squarely if Texas and Oklahoma, if those 2 teams win out and they get to the Big 12 championship, and someone ends with a 1-loss season, specifically Texas, because they would have a head-to-head over Alabama, who would hopefully be able to win out the SEC. With that said, give me your just straight up, give me your top 4 right now as of today.
Top 4? It's hard because Georgia and Michigan have played a bubblegum schedule.
Yeah, they really have.
So Georgia, Florida State, most definitely.
Yep.
Ohio State, and I think us. That's it.
Yeah, I think Florida State. I mean, they certainly have the style points right now. Watched them yesterday. I've been harping on them, but they keep winning. I do like the quarterback. I do like him a lot. Okay, give me your early overview on Bama LSU. What's your take on this game?
I think it's going to be a bang-bang game. I do think we beat them by 2 touchdowns, but that's all dependent on how our defense. If our defense sit on the quarterback all night, then it's gonna be rough. But LSU is just like us when it comes to coming from behind. They will knock your lights out in the 4th quarter. So if we play 3.5 quarters, we kill LSU.
I think that's a good point too, is like an LSU type team is a team that has the weapons to come back. And I want to know, and I think we've seen it to some aspect. If Alabama can, I don't know, like win a shootout, but can you come back? I think Alabama has certainly proven that they can come back if you don't put them away. But this team, I just don't feel that if you can't do that. You can't get down like 13-0 against LSU, especially at home. Like you do that, you're not going to win. And so putting points on the board, like even field goals are fine. Like field goals are sufficient if you can get in the red zone against this team, because the defense is so good. And I think the defense is just a matter of time till they create a turnover or they get you a 3-and-out to where you can go then and convert it to a touchdown. But you can't have these draws stall out and these drive killers, as Coach Saban likes to say.
We can't afford a sack against LSU. We can't afford a large sum of sacks. They don't really have a good defense, but their defense is lackluster in the secondary. It's not lackluster as far as running and stuff like that. So if we throw the ball all over LSU, then we kill them. We get ahead and we beat them in the ground first half, then come out second half, and we beat them by, we go hard in the 3rd quarter every game. That's our key right there. We go crazy in the 3rd quarter every time. We just have to have a good first half against LSU, and then we don't sleep in the fourth quarter, even if we're up 3 touchdowns. I've seen LSU come back from behind and kill teams.
Mm-hmm.
Like, yeah, we gotta make a statement with this game. I don't even care if we make the CFP. As long as we win out in the SEC championship, I'm good.
Yeah. Hey, Rafael, well, I appreciate you ending the show with us, man. We appreciate your support. Thanks for being patient on the call line. Call again this week. I'll be live Monday through Friday. And feel free to call in anytime. I really appreciate your support from Bama.
For sure. I appreciate you.
Yeah, no doubt, man. All right. Good show today, fam. I appreciate you guys joining me today on this fine Sunday, October 29th. Stay tuned for more video uploads. I'm going to go through, cut up the best calls from this and upload them to the YouTube channel. I appreciate you guys being here. Thumbs up, like, and subscribe. Thanks to Taylor and Claire for the super chats today. Coming to you from beautiful Tuscaloosa, Alabama. I hope you have a wonderful Sunday, and I hope you enjoy it with your family today. And I will talk to you soon right here on Bama Football on YouTube.